Giants Nation was good. We back for week 2 of Giant Overreaction. My name is Awthentik. If you haven't tuned in and you're a new subscriber, make sure to hit that subscribe button one time. We got a dope show on hand today. I know a lot of Giants fans are down and upset about that loss last night. I was actually at the game, man, so I was sitting in the end zone. Definitely saw the drop from Darius Slayton, like, right in my face. It was so close, man. Great throw by Daniel Jones. Like what I saw to Daniel Jones on the day, man. 95 yards on the ground, 22 of 32 for 249 yards and a touchdown. He had also added a touchdown on the ground. For those of y'all that don't know how we do the Giant Overreaction show, we're going to bring in a guest here who's a Giants fan or a Giants content creator from the community. We're going to give him 5 questions here, and we're going to see if these are overreactions by the Giants community or if these are not. And we're going to have to take the under if they are not overreactions. So without further ado, man, let me bring in our guest, man. I know a lot of y'all going to be familiar with the homie, one of the best content creators on YouTube right now as far as Giants content goes, man. Shout out to the homie one time. Let me bring the homie in one time. What's up, Hub? How you living, fam?
What's up, Giants fans? How y'all doing? Listen, I'm a little bit sad. I think a lot of us are a little bit sad. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I see a lot of people in there, man. We got, is that Shernock? Edward, Leon, Bark Nasty. Thank you all for tuning in.
Squad.
Hit that like button. We got 36 people in here, only 13 likes. It doesn't add up. I don't know what's up with that. But
yeah, it's early. We're going to give them some time to get up in here. You know, I usually like to try to keep this show to be kind of fast, 30 minutes, but I think today we might have to extend this one a little bit because, man, Giants Nation is very sad and a lot of stuff happened, like you said, man. How are you feeling about this game?
This game, bro. And the thing is, I went into the game and I was not confident at all in my team. And that's a sad thing to say because this is the first time I really felt like that. You know, years past, last year, the year before, even when we weren't a particularly good team, I'm like, you know what, we got a shot. For some reason, that loss coming off of Denver just hit me hard. And I was like, I'm not going to lie. I took the pessimistic view. I'm like, 4 days? I know some people said 4 days, maybe they could turn around quick. For me, it was like 4 days. They ain't got enough time to turn it around. But we had hope, and that was the worst part about last night's game. We had hope at several times during the game, and then we got the biggest ray of hope when Hopkins missed the field goal, and then it turns out Lawrence was offsides, and I'm just like, yo, this is a loss that's going to sting for a while, man.
Yeah, man, and being at the game for that, the offsides penalty was just critical, man. You know, we were sitting on the opposite end zone for that one. That play was going away from us. So when we see the kick go wide right, everybody loses their mind. I was sitting in the Giants end zone. People are jumping over seats. I'm losing my mind, and then I see my boy behind me, like, with both his hands on his head, like, oh, my God. And, you know, sure as I don't want to curse on the show, but as sure as it stinks, yeah, the flag comes out, and then they get a second chance at the kick, and then that 5 yards seemed like it was very critical for him to make that kick because the second one started off right. Yeah. It almost was the same exact kick, but just from a closer distance, made it in, snuck it in between the uprights. Let me get to this quick little super chat right here from the homie Ramon B. He says, "Why did we bring Adoree Jackson? Was it to play soft zone? Does that make sense?" You know, we definitely got some questions that are going to be answering a lot about this, you know, on this Giant Overreaction. Quickly, I would say it's interesting with Adoree Jackson, like the fade route that got caught on him, you know, you pretty much got Randy Moss. He's not the tallest of guys, but that's kind of what I was talking about with week 1 with Kenny Galladay against Denver. You put the ball up right, that's exactly the placement I was talking about. I know I got a lot of backlash on Twitter about that, but that's the exact placement that I'm talking about. High and up away, you give your guy a chance to make a play on the ball. I saw some good things from Adoree Jackson. There was a couple, you know, plays that I saw him make. It's really hard when you're actually at the game because you don't got all these fantastic camera angles and whatnot. But from what I saw from him, he was doing okay. It seems like Patrick Graham is playing soft coverage for sure, but I feel like he's putting the players in position to make plays because every time you see us get beat, it's like by one step. It's Giants fans like to say, oh, you know, the wide receivers on our side of the ball aren't getting separation, right? But it seems like on our defensive side of the ball, that we're always right there on the hip of the defender, but they just make the play. And seeing the timing of the game in person, man, I mean, it is flying. It's so much faster than what you see on TV. The windows for quarterbacks to throw are smaller. And I got to give a salute to Taylor Heinicke on this, man. Taylor Heinicke is a baller. A lot of Giants fans overlooked him, and they thought, oh, we're going up against a backup quarterback. But in reality, Taylor Heinicke should have been the starter from day one. And I've been saying this since day one of Taylor Heinicke stepping on the field. Dude is a bona fide baller for one, and this is the second year in a row row, Ron Rivera has made the wrong decision at quarterback for week 1 and just wasting time for Washington to get out of the gates. You know, Ryan Fitzpatrick was looking like a statue, and you know, I don't wish on anybody to get hurt or anything like that. I wish him a speedy recovery. I know he's opting out to not get the surgery, and he's going to be out for about 8 weeks. But I don't think he's going to have a job when he gets back here because Taylor Heineke's a baller. He don't got the strongest arm in the league, but he can get the ball down the field, and his timing is just ridiculous, man. So, you know, it's hard to gauge this on a, you know, a grand scheme of things because Adoree Jackson's been out here for 2 games. And it's just hard to tell, you know. I don't want to overreact, but that is what this show is. So, you know, I'm sure there's going to be some overreacting from Giants fans. But what's your thoughts on Adoree?
So, well, there was a couple things you addressed that I want to go through first. So, with the Adoree and Graham, I kind of disagree with the soft zone thing because I agree. Okay, how do I put this? There was times during the game where he played soft zone where I was like, all right, that makes sense. Like, for example, there was that one drive where it was like 3rd and 15 and they got pushed back more. I'm like, of course it makes sense to play off, like way off your man like that there. But then there's just times in the games where it was like a 3rd and short and our defense is playing softball. And I still see James Bradbury and Adoree lining up like 5 yards off their man. And I'm like, why are you giving him so much space? They only need 2 yards to convert. And that was my problem specifically with Patrick Graham several times during this game and during the last game. It just seems like for whatever the reason is, he's kind of overusing it. It's not there's no such thing as a bad play in football, in my opinion. It's just when you use it. So for people to call the soft zone coverage a bad thing, it's just that I feel like Patrick Graham is using it more than he should. A subscriber of mine pointed out that we did something similar to that last year in the first 2 weeks, but we adjusted. So I was like, I hope we do adjust. I'd have to go back and look at the Steelers game. I had to go back and look at the Chicago game to see what's up with it. Obviously, something was different because we did not allow 57 points in 2 weeks like we do this year. And maybe this was an overreaction, but I said in my reaction video, and I had a rant video out today because I just need to get thoughts out where I was like, are we one of the worst defenses in the NFL? Because we let up 57 points in 2 games. That's a lot. That's like the Cowboys defense last year where I think they let up like 60 to 64 or something like that. That's only a touchdown different. I know that we're supposed to come in with a good defense, but as of right now, I'm judging off of week 1 and week 2. What we hung our hat on last year was that scoring-wise, we were really good. We always kept teams from scoring. Right now is the exact opposite. It seems like we can't stop anybody from scoring. Remember that 2-play drive for Washington had? 2 plays, 75 yards, a touchdown, and it happened in
17 seconds.
What 17? Like what? When does that happen to a good defense? Does not allow that to happen. And so I do put a good amount of blame on Patrick Graham, but I agree with you, and that's a problem with the Giants. I almost feel like I wish there was one person I could put the blame on, but there's things going wrong everywhere. I got to put blame on the players as well. Like, you know what I'm saying? Leonard Williams, where are you, bro? I made a T-shirt of you, and now I'm regretting that decision. Where are you? We're paying you $23 million a year, and I don't need to see any stats for this because I was watching the game live. Taylor Heinicke was not getting no type of pressure except for the first 2 drives. After the first 2 drives, he was sitting there pretty, just like Teddy Bridgewater last week. The pressure is non-existent. I'm just like, yo, Leo, I know for a fact that you're not just out here like not giving effort. I know you're giving effort. So what's up with it? Are you telling me they adjusted and you can't adjust to their adjustments? Because if that's the case, then we shouldn't have given you $23 million. You know what I mean? Like, and now I'm going on a rant, but everything connects back to Joe Judge, bro. Like everything connects back to Joe Judge and saying that we have a mentally tough team, a team that's going to punch you in the mouth. No, we don't. A mentally tough team doesn't perform the way that our team performs. A mentally tough team doesn't make the silly mistakes that we made. You know what I'm saying? Dexter Lawrence isn't offsides if he's mentally tough. Darius Slayton catches that ball. There's so many things here, man. We see a lot more effort. We see a lot more just on the defense. How is it that we enter the year and the 2 things we were worried about are the 2 most impressive things to me so far? And I said this from week 1. I'm like, yo, this offensive line and pass protection, people need to give it respect. And then you saw the stats came out, and I was like, okay, maybe the stats aren't telling the whole story because they were ranked way high. Like they were ranked as the 3rd best pass blocking offensive line. I was like, whoa, I don't know if I saw that, but they were good. And then this game without Nick Gates, which you could tell that was a momentum changer because on the offense and defensive side of the ball, it seemed like we got the wind knocked out of us when Gates went out. But even without Nick Gates, I was like, I really respect and appreciate the work that Rob Sale, the line coach, and this basically makeshift line is putting in right here. Because if there was one thing that was consistent week 1 and week 2 with the pass protection is that Daniel always had a good amount of time. Week 1, you know, I don't know. He was top 10 for time in the pocket, right?
Yep.
This week also, he was like, he had time. And you saw how much it helped them because you saw him actually scan the field. And
He
let's be
did.
honest, I was saying the two things that impressed me consistently is him and the line. He had probably his best game of his career. The only other one I could think that is above that was that 5 touchdown game he had against Washington in 2019. But like decision making wise, it was like a beautiful masterpiece, I guess you could say. When I'm just looking at him, like I could see him surgically chopping up this defense that Washington has. And I was just really impressed with it. But I really, really hate what we have right now as a team in general because it's hypocritical to what the coaches say we have. This is not a mentally tough team. I think our defense is soft. I think the players' mentality right now is soft. I might be overreacting as the show's name is, but I think that some players are really already almost on a ledge because you don't have your number one receiver already yelling at your offensive coordinator on the sideline in week 2, bro. Unless this man is really feeling some strong type of way about how he's being used. You don't have
lot of
Kadarius Toney.
turmoil happened on the sideline.
Yeah, you don't have
and that was the
Kadarius
one
Toney
caught on
tweeting what he
camera.
tweeted. Exactly. You don't have Kadarius Toney going out and expressing his displeasure, which I completely agree with because I'm a Kadarius Toney fan. And it's like, why in the world are you not using him? If he's not healthy, don't have him dress. Don't have him go out there. You have him out there in plays. You're just straight up not using him. And
he's just not getting the ball. Kadarius
Toney
was on the field a lot more than I thought.
I'm gonna tell you this: Kadarius Toney doesn't drop that ball that Darius Slayton dropped.
You know the interesting part about the Darius Slayton thing is he was having a fantastic game. He caught the fade route early on in the game. Perfect pass from Daniel Jones.
It's like how do you catch that one? And the defender, it wasn't like he was draped all over you, but the defender was way closer to you than the Washington defender on the second pass.
Look, I was watching I watch Max Kellerman's new show in the mornings now.
What's it called, by the way?
I forget what it's called, but it's got Jason Williams and Keyshawn Johnson on every morning with them, right? And Keyshawn broke down that play, and he said those be the kind of catches that as a wide receiver, things are too slow, and it's happening so slow when the ball's in the air, you know you're wide open and the bright lights are on you. It sometimes can be one of the harder catches to make. But what he did say is that great wide receivers are going to make that catch all the time. Tim Tebow also emphasized that on First Take this morning as well. Like, if you're a great wide receiver, you're going to make that catch. Darius Slayton, we know he's had drop issues, so you know he goes into this game with that on his mind. Probably starts playing a little bit looser after he gets – he had a comeback route that was so amazing. The timing from Daniel Jones and Darius Slayton in this game was so good. And, you know, to see him just drop that pass, what Keyshawn was saying is that when a wide receiver is on the right side of the quarterback who's right-handed, the spiral – is going to go over his shoulder a little bit towards the sideline. So you got to prepare for that and have your outside hand go more towards the sideline. He said it's a technique that he learned when he was playing back in the day. He said that I think it was either Andre Reed or Andre Rison. I can't remember who he said, but he was like, those are the catches that'll make you be able to afford Bentleys. He said, if you can make those catches in the NFL, it'll make you be able to afford Bentleys because they're big plays. That's what coaches are looking for. And I don't want to get too sidetracked off the Adoree Jackson thing too. The wild part about the defense is we were in a lot of soft zone coverage the whole game, but when you look at the drive where we got torched for the 2 big plays in 17 seconds, they had Tay Crowder and man on McKissick coming out of the backfield. He's just off of him, you know. So for me, it's like I can't keep blaming the coaches. I really can't. Like, players got to be out there. These windows were very small that Taylor Heineke was hitting, and you saw plays where Jabril Peppers is literally barely missing the play. I mean, the ball's going right over his hand. Blake Martinez as well, too. I saw a couple that just, like, went right over him. And it's
there was a couple
execution.
of tip drills that should have resulted in interceptions that game.
Oh, there was one main one, too. Yeah, in, like, the third quarter that should have been an interception for sure. It popped up. The ball's in the air for, like, a good 3 seconds. Like, somebody's got to come down and make a play. You know, the Giants are just this is what it looks like when you're a bad team. Because even in a game where it feels like you should win, you find a way to lose it. You know, with our coach being a special team specialist, there's no excuse for the guy who is dead center over the ball on a game-winning field goal to jump off sides. There's no excuse for that. You know, and I don't want to blame the player or nothing like that, but I do think that it's interesting that this is the team that we are and the coaches that we have, but we're making boneheaded mistakes when we're supposed to be a sound team. You look at the penalties from this game in comparison to last game, there's a lot more penalties this game.
I think it was like 9 penalties or something like that for 90-something yards.
It was something like that. I know one team had 9, one team had 11, I think, so I can't remember. I got a super chat from the homie one time, your brother one time from the Young Guns podcast. Y'all make sure y'all check out the Hub and Kid Blue. He says Kadarius Toney deserves reps by default of being a first-round pick. I've actually been seeing a lot of people say that. I'm old school, right? So, like, the first-round pick for me don't got to be on the field the first game or the second game. in this situation, the Giants don't have serious depth at wide receiver. But if Darius Slayton makes that catch and we go up by 10 points and we win this game, I don't think people are going to be so upset about Kadarius Toney not getting the ball, because Slayton had a good game, and Shepard is being a beneficiary of Kenny Galladay being out there on the edge, taking 2 people. They played safety over the top almost on every play. I had the best view from the angle from the end zone. They played safety over the top, shaded to Kenny Galladay's side like the whole game. So we couldn't get that long route. There was a couple like short slants, kind of skinny post routes that they went to Kenny Galladay with that were a little bit high from Daniel Jones. And he was a little bit, you could tell he got settled as the game went along. Just a lot of things.
You could tell it's exactly what they were saying. Him and Galladay just need to get that throwing chemistry together, basically.
Yeah, you can see that. And Daniel is not used to having a guy where he could just kind of throw it out there for him. You know, you saw that with Rudolph. You saw that with Caden Smith in this game. The catches that those guys made were in the most tightest windows. Seeing it in person, man, like, the dude is really good. Daniel Jones is really, really good. And the other thing, he's really, really fast. When he broke that touchdown run and CJ Board's out there and making a block he has no business making, we're already like 25 yards down the field and you're down there making I don't think it was a penalty, but at the same time, you got to be sure on that one. But Daniel Jones is a fantastic quarterback. When I see Taylor Heineke, who I also think is a pretty damn good quarterback, when I see him in the pocket, he don't look as good as Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones' stature is way taller, way more confident. The arm got way more zip. He just seems like he needs to be a starting quarterback in this league, and it just makes me feel like maybe the organization is really failing this kid. You know, when you see a game like that in person, for me, it really boosted my confidence in Daniel Jones. And we were off air. We were talking about the questions that we should put up, and you were like, "Yo, why don't we suggest this one question?" And it was about Daniel Jones. You were saying, "Has he shown us enough?"
Yeah, did he show you enough for you to say, you know what, that's my guy?
I think that's my guy. I don't know if he's going to be able to finish out this year and be, you know, A1 like that in every game. If Daniel Jones is not fumbling, that's my guy. That's my guy. That dude.
Also,
is
he hasn't
baller.
thrown an interception since that Ingram one at the end of the year. I think that was November. No, that was December. Whatever it was.
Yeah.
He hasn't thrown a single interception this year. I'll just leave it at that. He hasn't thrown a single interception this year.
The dude is balling. So I think for me, that's a pretty easier one to diagnose right there. I think Daniel Jones is the guy. Like, I got faith in him.
The sad part about this, it was one thing you said during your tangent there just now, which I was like, damn, I'm really sad he said that. You were like, what if it's a situation where the organization is failing this kid? And I'm like, that reminds me of what we were saying a year ago when Saquon went down. Or is the organization failing Saquon? Yeah. Now it's a possibility that we're saying, is the organization failing Daniel Jones? That's our 2 first-round picks back-to-back. What's it going to be next? Are we failing Tony?
Stuff. You know, Tony's start looks like Odell Beckham's start, right? Odell Beckham sidelined with an injury. We got our first-round pick sitting on the bench. Kadarius Toney's getting out there. He's just not getting the ball. And when you talk about failing players in the organization, I got to look back at Odell Beckham, because here's the thing. Odell Beckham wasn't an adult during that time. You're talking about a kid fresh out of college. You got to have damage control, and you got to have people on top of that. I think the same thing goes for when you see Kenny Galladay kind of blowing up on the sideline too. If you are going to instill mental toughness, what Kenny Galladay was doing, didn't that remind you a little bit of what Odell Beckham used to do on the sideline back in the day?
Yeah, it did.
You know, so for me, it's pretty interesting. Let me get to this one super chat here too. Vinciano, appreciate you, man, for the $4.99 super chat. I wish I had the beard up in here to give them $9.99.99s. Darius Slayton has to be replaced with Kadarius Toney, or the drops will continue to be a problem. Keep faith, fellas. We still got a chance to turn it around. That's what's up. I definitely feel you on that. Giants Nation, we definitely in the building one time. We're only 2 games in the season, so I definitely feel you on that. I'm not too sure about Kadarius Toney being the guy to replace
at least
Darius
not
Slayton.
immediately. I don't think it's going to happen immediately.
But you did. Here's the thing. You did. What I liked about what Jason Garrett did with his game plan just a little bit was you did see Kadarius Toney out there on the split in this game a lot. He was opposite of Kenny Galladay a lot, and you actually saw him on the field with Slayton a couple times too.
There was a couple of times he was lined up right at the bottom of my screen. I was like, oh, are they gonna go to him? Because he was like lined up one-on-one. And I think that is one of the main reasons fans are feeling the way they're feeling, is because it would be one thing if he's on the bench and he's just not being used at all, but he's actually being involved in the game plan and he's just not being targeted, right? So I think that's why he's feeling some type of way as well. He's like, why are you having me on the field, bro, if you're not even gonna throw it to me once?
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that, man. And that's totally real. And if y'all don't know, man, make sure y'all go sub up to the Hub. I know a lot of y'all are already subbed up to the Hub. Check them out on Twitter at the Hub YT. And let's get it. Let's put you on the hot seat one time real quick. and let's talk about what we've been seeing on Twitter a little bit, and talk about, we kind of touched on some of these questions already, and I'll get this one out the way first because we did get the super chat about Adoree. And here's my question for you: is Kenny Galladay and Adoree Jackson were both overpaid and not worth the money? Is this an overreaction, or are you going to take the under on this and think that these guys can maybe turn the season around and be worth the dollars we paid them?
So, okay, I would say it is an overreaction because I think they are worth the money, right?
Yeah.
So, like, people that are saying this, they're overreacting. Okay, then just to clarify.
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
because it's 2 games in, 1. 2, we see Kenny has been involved way more this game than he was last game. A couple of those drops, I would have to go back and look, but like Daniel was targeting him from the beginning, and Daniel was targeting him pretty consistently throughout. He just seems a lot more involved. I think they just need to get their chemistry down. With Adoree Jackson, I personally think he looked like the best corner out there last night, and that's kind of by default because James Bradbury looked terrible.
Yeah.
James Bradbury, for his first 2 games this year, he's having a rough start. I don't know why. He's going to have to figure out and fix it. If it's his problem, if it's we were saying earlier, if it's a coaching problem, they're going to have to fix it. I think it's a combination of both. We'll see. But Adoree Jackson looked like our best corner last night, even though he got beat by Ricky Seals-Jones in the end zone. And you could take that how you will. I will say he's not getting any help from the pass rush. We have a non-existent pass rush right now, and tackling is bad overall. Like, there's just nothing really going right on this defense. But the main reason for me to say, I'm going to say this statement is an overreaction, is because you still got to give them time. It's just 2 weeks in. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, a lot of people in the chat actually agreeing with you too, and I'm with you on that. I do think it's an overreaction. If we think these guys are overpaid already, 2 games in. I think Kenny Galladay does a lot on the field without making catches. In this game, though, you did see a couple drops. He's got to clean that up a bit because he is the kind of wide receiver that, is always catching contested passes. So it's important for him that when you get the ball in your hands to be able to secure it and make the catch. And you're right. You brought up a good point there. I didn't talk about James Bradbury too much, but Adoree Jackson did look like the best cornerback on the field last night. Even on the touchdown play, I thought he tried to make a great play there. He was
on the touchdown play.
He put his hand in there.
He was like right on Jones. It's just that Jones had the bigger body, and that's why on stream I was like, you know what? Obviously, I want not a touchdown, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna completely be like, Adoree, that's your fault. Like, the dude is just bigger than you, and that's what he used to his advantage.
Yeah, definitely agree with you on that. My homie who went to the game with me, another Giants fan, when they scored in 17 seconds, he was completely demolished, and I was like, well, they did score fast, and we still got some time to score. There was 4 minutes left on the clock. And the thing is, a lot of people are going to forget about this, is that the Giants squandered an opportunity there before we got the turnover, because we did get the ball back with 4 minutes left. And I believe it was a 3-and-out, or it was 1 first down, and then we.
I thought the game was over there when we turned it over. Like, people forget that James Bradbury interception was like a saving grace that ended up being wasted, in my opinion. But
it really did, man. And you saw the team going I'm not a huge fan of when defenses do this, like when they get an interception late like that and they all go into the end zone and go celebrate. They ran right in front of me. I was sitting in that end zone, man. They all celebrated, and I was just kind of like, is this a little bit premature maybe? I mean, there is a lot of time left on the clock. And I expected, especially from Joe Judge and his kind of direction as a coach, I expected them to play pretty conservative on that next drive. There was about 2 minutes left in the game or something like that. Actually, it was about 2:50 left. And Washington still had a couple timeouts on the board. So for me, it was like you had to run. First down was a guaranteed run. I knew it. I don't care who the coach is. Whatever mastermind you want to pull out your pocket, you got to run the ball on first down there and make Washington call timeout. And I like the call to run it on second down, I think. Third down, decent play call there. Daniel missed the throw. Very rare for him on the night. He didn't miss too many throws. And in a clutch situation, you give your quarterback a chance to make a play there, to maybe put 7 on the board. But I understand why they're coaching the game very cautiously like this, because we're struggling to get wins, not only this season, but we know this is a thing dating back to years for the Giants where we just can't close games. You look at the box score here, we did not close out the second quarter. If you watch Awthentik in the Beard, I talk about this all the time. You got to close out the second quarter before you go into the half, and you got to close out the fourth quarter. Both of them we didn't close out. They outscored us in the second. They outscored us in the fourth. So for this one, I got to let this develop a little bit more. I don't think they're overpaid right now. One of the other questions will kind of lean towards what I'm thinking as far as about at the wide receiver position. But with Adoree Jackson, it was a necessity that we get a second corner on that weak side. We saw how much that got
just
beat up
imagine if
last
he
year.
was our best corner last night. We still had Yadam out there. This would probably be a blowout win for Washington, man.
Yeah, that's real, man. So I take the under on that for sure.
What I will say, though, to one thing you did say, you understand why they're playing cautiously. I just can't, because to me it looks like you need to play to win the game. And then Biggie just said in the chat as well. I'm like, you can't play not to lose. That's being too safe. And for
Okay.
me, 4th and 2 for first half, 4th and 2, we took a
Yep.
field goal. We were like in the red zone.
Yeah.
I have no idea why we didn't try and convert that, or at least try and go for it to go up 7. Because
I
guess
do.
what?
I do.
Our defense up until that point, even though it was still the first half, was
Yeah.
still looking like some garbage. And our defense last week looked like some garbage. And our defense, even when we were good last year and last week, always gave up points before the half. That's what was
Yeah.
going in my head. I'm like, we're gonna give up, or there's a chance we're gonna give up points in the half. So I want to try and make it harder for them to take that
I
lead.
totally understand that. But coming out of that game out of Denver where the coaches completely mishandled the fourth quarter and went for it way too many times on fourth down, I don't think you can start the game like that, because if you don't convert there, people gonna be looking at you crazy. And that's kind of what I want to lean to as far as the last possession.
It's a catch-22 in that sense, then.
It is. It really is. Because imagine on second down, you go for a pass and Daniel Jones fumbles it or throws an interception. Garrett's going to get the blame regardless. That's the thing. So he's trying to cover his tail. And if you look at Joe Judge in the press conference that he did last night, he talked about it. It seemed like it came from Joe Judge. He said we had to be conservative there, and we had, with them having timeouts, we had to run the ball to drain some of the clock out. You know that you're not going to get that down under 2 minutes at the time, though, because Washington had 2 or 3 timeouts. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. But, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't at this point, And
that's exactly what it is, that last statement.
When you're a losing team, that's what ends up happening, And I talk about this on Twitter a lot. Like, we can't really take one thing and blame it on one thing. But I will say this: in both of these games, the defense has been garbage.
Yes, both of these. I don't know. I can't remember the question now. If we had a question specifically about Patrick Graham, did we?
Let's see here. We do have a defense related question. So now that we're done with that one, let's just bring that one up, and we'll tie it into whatever conversation we need to have on that one. And the next one was the New York Giants defense was overrated from last season. And let me set this up a certain way here. So I posted a tweet on just a couple days ago, actually, September 15th at 1:22 p.m. I said, I have faith in Graham, but the Giants defense was overrated last year in 2020. 8 games against average to horrendous quarterbacks. I listed the quarterbacks: Brandon Allen, Kyle Allen, Alex Smith, Carson Wentz, Andy Dalton, Nick Mullins, Mitch Trubisky, and Jared Goff. Lamar and Baker destroyed us. That's how I ended the tweet. Now, a couple people came back and said, Baker Mayfield didn't destroy us. Go look at those numbers. Only 5 passes hit the ground. He had 300-plus yards, and I think he had 2 or 3 touchdowns in the game. I don't know where y'all come from, but in my books, you got cooked. Straight up. Lamar Jackson, we already know about that game. Giants played decent against Russell Wilson because the pass rush was effective, and early on in the season played pretty decent against Tom Brady and against Ben Roethlisberger. But with Ben Roethlisberger, I feel like we never had no pressure on Ben Roethlisberger to actually step up and win the game. Very easy coast-to-victory game for Pittsburgh in that game. So for me, I'm going to take – okay, so the New York Giants defense was overrated last season. To me, this is not an overreaction. I'm going to take the under.
Yeah. I'm gonna agree with you here. And this stuff that you brought up, I saw that tweet from you last week, and I was like, he's making sense because somebody told me that a month before the season. It was a Cowboys content creator. I'm gonna give him a shout out because at first when I heard it, of course, I was like, you're crazy, bro. What are you talking about? But then game 1 happened, and I was like, oh damn, he was right. And then you tweeted as well, and I'm like, more and more people are saying the same thing. They're like coming to the same conclusion. I'm like, they could be onto something here. And yeah, so the shout out is to this guy, Cowboys Fan Talk, aka Mr. Rome. Okay. If you guys are interested in checking him out, Cowboys content creator, go ahead and do that. You know what I'm saying? He told me, he was like, I think both the Giants and Washington football team defenses are a sham because last year they both faced bad quarterbacks. And he listed the exact quarterbacks you listed. And he was like, when you face quarterbacks like that, it's going to kind of inflate your defensive stats. He said he's not necessarily saying that we have a terrible defense, but he definitely thinks that it was not top 10 like at the end of the year to stats state. And I 100% agree with him now. Because I definitely think we also regressed, as crazy as that sounds, because if we had a defense that performs like the way it performed last year, once again, we're not giving up 57 points in 2 games. We're not giving up 30 to Washington. We're not giving up 27 to Teddy Bridgewater.
Man. 57 in 2 games.
57 think about that for a second. Let's just round it off. 60 in 2 games is what we gave up.
Yeah.
That is probably going to be the worst in the NFL by the time week 2 ends. I'm going to just keep it real with y'all. That might be the worst in the NFL points-wise by the time week 2 ends. So we definitely took a step back, but overrated from last year 100%. And this goes into stuff. There's a lot of stuff, right? This is going to be a common theme for the show and a common theme for all Giants fans. It's not just one thing. It's a combination. It's a
Yeah.
combination of the fact that, yes, Patrick Graham, in my opinion, did change the way his scheme was called from last year to this year. Yes, the players are just straight up not producing. We already talked about Leonard Williams. I really don't want to say this man balled out for the contract year because it was a contract year. As of right now, that's what it's looking like. We're going to wait and see if he pulls up. But that was a fear for us. Was it not a legit fear for us? We're like, he balled out, but what is he going to do next year? Right?
Yeah.
We're not seeing the edge rushers that they've been talking up high in Lorenzo Carter and O'Shane perform. I'm giving Aziz a pass. You could call me biased towards him. I've always been biased towards him, but he's a rookie. And, hey, as of right now, he has our only sacks on the season, which is sad. We have 2 sacks on the season, and it's from him alone, from the rookie. One of them was a coverage sack. The one he got this year was legitimate pressure off Cosme, but then, he disappeared the rest of the game. Like, we regressed, and part of it is with the scheme. Part of it, I don't know, did players get comfortable, or was it just something where they overperformed and it wasn't sustainable? And that would be my worst fear if it is that. Because if it wasn't sustainable, then they're not going to get back to it.
Yeah, it's very hard for me to judge if things are scheme oriented because, like I said, damned if you do, damned if you don't. I see Kid Blue was saying, there's definitely a scheme thing about playing soft zone on 2nd and 7 and things like that, right? But look at the play where Tay Crowder gets burnt. That might have been a first down. I think it was a first down. They're man-to-man on first down. He gets straight cooked. So it's like I don't like to try to dig too much into the scheme because I'm not a coach, right? Like I understand football a certain way and I can watch it from TV a certain way and get a good perspective on things. But like for me, it's like if you playing soft, if you're James Bradbury and it's 2nd and 7 and you're in a zone and you're off the ball 5 to 7 yards, you got to at least know I got to protect this line. So like there's nobody behind you. I mean, and it's Terry McLaurin. Let's not forget that too. Like we can't overlook Terry McLaurin. First week I can give I can't give the pass to James Bradbury because I feel like you're playing up against wide receivers who are a bit more.
You're one of the best corners in the league, bro. You can't have a game like that, or 2 games like that. In fact,
2 games, and that's the problem because the first game they completed 6 of 7 on him, and then this game Terry McLaurin gets 11 catches. I think it was 11 targets, which is just ridiculous. And they beat him on the quick slant like 3 times. Maybe some of that has to do with the coaching as well. But like if you're in a soft zone, I mean, this just from what I know, right? Like, and like I said, man, I'm not like some defensive guru or nothing like that, right? But when you play zone from the cornerback position, your outside linebacker should have your inside help. Where was that? Terry McLaurin is doing a slant. He's wide open. Ain't nobody over there. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I totally agree with you. I do think we were overrated, and it's not like by some outlandish mark. It's not like they were top 10 defense last season, and they really should have been ranked like 30th or something. I just think that they're not the top 10 defense that everybody came into the year praising and hoping that they would be a top 5 defense this year.
Yeah.
I just look at the personnel, and we've always struggled in coverage. So for me, is that's just where I stand with it. And I've always stood there. And I got a lot of backlash on this. I went on 2 podcasts the night before the game with Tanner and with Bobby, and a lot of people in the chat were giving me backlash on that, when I was saying the defense was overrated. And I mean, we got a lot more football to play, but as far as these first 2 games, I mean, I definitely feel like, that defense is totally overrated.
Yeah, I will say this. Terry McLaurin's a god. At least he looked like one last night.
He's a guy, man, for sure.
Well, he kind of reminds me a little bit in terms of the production he's putting up with quarterbacks is he kind of reminds me of DeAndre Hopkins in his early years, where it's like, yes, Taylor Heinicke is a good quarterback, but we're just not sure if he's that quarterback yet. I'm gonna just turn this off for a second, but you guys can still hear me. But I was just like, he's performing incredibly well with the guys he has right now. He doesn't have a set guy, and honestly, the guy is he a top 10 receiver? I don't know, but he's well on his way to being that for me. He's simply incredible, and we threw the kitchen sink at him and we couldn't do anything, man. It was crazy.
Yeah, Terry McLaurin, I've been talked about this when he first came in the league. The wide receiver I compared him to a lot was Ocho Cinco, because Terry McLaurin is a fantastic route runner, man. He gets in and out of those breaks fast, and he's got great hands. You don't ever got to worry about him dropping the ball. I think he's a true number 1 wide receiver, and seeing Nick Wright downplay him as a guy in the league, to me, it was kind of ridiculous because you get paid to cover sports, bro. You should know Terry McLaurin is a guy. I got a 1-up advantage because I'm in the Washington, D.C. market. I live in Washington, D.C., so I get to see a lot of the coverage on Terry McLaurin. All the people out here have faith in him, and everybody's got faith in Taylor Heinicke, man. So I think the Giants definitely
one thing I want to say on Taylor Heinicke, I said in my preview video, very similar to what you said, is that we shouldn't just kind of write this guy off, because for some reason people thought that it was going to be easy to play him. And I'm like, did we forget he started a playoff game for Washington and they performed admirably in that playoff game or something? Yeah. Like, people act as if that doesn't happen. Yes, he came in week 1 halfway through the game, and yes, you could You could argue, sure, if you want to, he caught that defense off guard because they didn't game plan for him, but he has some skills, and we game plan for him, and it wasn't enough.
Yeah, it's crazy. I saw a lot of people downplaying Teddy Bridgewater the same exact way. You know, and both of those guys are guys, man. I talked about Teddy Bridgewater. Shout out to Mark Schofield, who does play breakdowns, man. He was breaking down Teddy Bridgewater in the preseason, and he was like, "This is why he won a job. Dude's a baller." From what I saw from him, he can definitely be a guy at least top 15 in this league. Just got to put the pieces around him. And yeah, Giants. I don't think the Giants team is sleeping on these quarterbacks, but the Giants community definitely was sleeping on these quarterbacks. Super interesting. But let's get to this next question. So me and you both went that this is an overreaction on this one.
Yeah.
Or it isn't an overreaction, sorry.
It isn't, yeah.
Yeah, it is an overreaction. That always twists me up, man, because it's like overrated, overreaction. Are we taking over? Are we taking under? Me and Pest had the same problem on the show. But we appreciate everybody who's in the chat one time right now, man. 69 people in the chat, 70 people in the chat right now. You know, this is the second week of Giant Overreaction. I'm going to be bringing these to you pretty much weekly. I normally would have did this on a Monday, but I wanted to bring the hub on while things were fresh and on our mind here with the game being last night and whatnot. Man, I slept like a king today, man. I didn't wake up till like the late afternoon. My voice is a little bit
you
scratchy
saw,
from
speaking of sleep, you saw
too.
Dexter Lawrence's response to that question? That got me laughing, bro. So the reporters asked him, based off what happened last night, did you have any trouble sleeping? He's like, nah, I love sleep, so it was easy. I was like, hey, nobody's gonna like that answer, bro. Nobody's gonna like that answer.
They're not.
Oh,
that's
man.
real, bro. All right, well, let's take it to this next question. Let's see, which one do we have next? We skipped that one. Ooh, this one's gonna be a good one. This one's gonna be a really good one. Daniel Jones and Joe Judge were both a reach. Daniel Jones being drafted number 6 overall. Joe Judge coming from New England with, I believe, 3 years experience over there as a special teams coach. I think 8 years in the league. And, you know, I know the Giants, when we did first hire Joe Judge, there was a lot of surprise reactions. Stephen A. Smith, who says Joe Judge is one of his guys now, he had one of the most overreactions.
Yeah, he was like, he thought they said Judge Joe Brown. I was like, ain't no way, bro.
Yeah, but what's your thoughts on this? And if you want, you could split this one, but I'd prefer you to lump it into one go if they were both.
Oh, no, that's fine, because my answer is the same for both of them, actually. So my answer is no, they were not a reach. And let me start off with Jones first, because we're talking 2019 here. Let's actually go back and look at the 2019 quarterback class. As of right now, Kyler Murray is the only sure thing, and he went number 1 overall. So what are you going to do about that?
Facts.
Daniel Jones at 6th overall, we know that there were other teams interested in him that would have taken him. So just because of that, you know, as a reach in terms of draft terms, no, he's not a reach. Just like how Kadarius Toney, in terms of draft terms, at the moment of judging it, we know there was 2 teams interested in taking him after us. It's like, okay, he's not a reach because there are teams within that area, so to speak, within those numbers, within that range that wanted this guy for them. So based off of that, no, Daniel Jones is not a reach. And then once again, it goes back to the quarterback class. Like, who are you going to take, Gardner Minshew? Well, everybody passed on him like 6 times. He went in the 6th round. Dwayne Haskins, as of right now, still is a bust in my opinion. We'll see if he could turn his career around. Who else was there? Drew Lock. Drew Lock is not starting for his team. I don't think he's going to start anytime soon. Will Greer, I remember that was a name that people threw out there. He's 4th round to Carolina. I don't know where he is right now.
Yeah, they moved him. I can't remember where he went. Maybe like Miami or Texans or something like that.
Jared Stidham, bro, got replaced by Mac Jones, which I mean, I completely agree with, but he never even started for New England at all. So it's like, nah, Daniel Jones was not a reach. The only
this one seems to have gotten the chat kind of chopping it up pretty heavy. Edward Chin says not an overreaction.
So yeah, so I think me and Edward are on the same page then.
Yeah, y'all on the same page for sure. Lucas says, DJ yes, Judge no.
Let me get to Judge then, because I was actually, I think it was Pest last night or it was Ash Money. We were talking after the game because we were depressed. It was like 2 a.m. and we were talking, right? And we had a conversation similar to this. I was like, yo, let's go back and see. Let's look at the coaches hired within like the past 2-3 years. New coaches.
Yeah.
Who's been successful other than Kevin Stefanski? And I'll give credit to Kevin Stefanski, but he entered a really good situation. But I'll give him his credit, right? Other than Kevin Stefanski, which new coach has really had success? If you could name it.
Say Flores, but not a very new hiring. You know,
exactly. That's the point I'm trying to make, right? Who are we going to hire instead of Joe Judge? Matt Rule. He made it very clear he didn't want to come here.
This might stir the pot right here a little bit.
He made it very clear that he didn't want to come here, or at least he was like, unless you about to give me a boatload of money, I'm not coming here.
Yeah.
He went to Carolina.
Now, what about Mike McCarthy? I know a lot of people in the Giants community don't like Mike McCarthy, but I'll tell you this:
Yeah,
when we were first in search for a coach, I was looking at Mike McCarthy.
he was the most experienced one on the market, right?
Yep.
The thing with Mike McCarthy is, can we judge him as of right now as the Cowboys head coach?
Tough.
Right? We can't do that.
Right.
He win wise kind of in a similar situation that the Giants are in. So we'll
Yeah.
see. That's why I'm like, you got to look at like the past 2 to 3 years, not just when Joe Judge was hired. We could go back all the way back to when we hired Pat Shermer. What was the coaching hiring cycle then? A lot of those guys have been fired as well.
Yeah.
Like,
And what about
who else would we have hired?
What about the guys not getting the opportunity to get hired,
So-
like a Eric Bieniemy?
So what I'll say to Eric Bieniemy is that, and this is a personal thought, I really do think this man, he's just waiting to take over KC. I think that he's looking to take over from KC, or he's trying to, stay there as long as he can, do as great as a job for as long as he can, maybe get a couple more rings. I think that he likes the situation in Kansas City. I'm not saying that he's never going to take a head coach.
Head coach. People were talking about Patrick Graham being a head coach, and I was like, maybe he doesn't want to be a head coach. It doesn't strike me as a guy that wants to run a whole team.
Mhm.
But I mean, it's just speculation at this point. But I like that point you made. Maybe he's just waiting to take over the reins and get the keys to the car.
If not that, then he's just taking all that he can, getting all the experience that he can, is great experience before he goes off. I mean, I don't feel like we should just throw that idea away. I feel like that could be a legitimate thing, but it just comes back down to, all right, if not Joe Judge, who are you hiring during those 2 coaching cycles? And that's why I'm like, no, he's not a reach, even though right now I'm very angry with Joe Judge. Let's not get it twisted. So this is coming from a guy right now, chat, that's fed up with Joe Judge, that I think both of these losses are on his shoulders, and that I'm very angry with him, and I think he's low-key kind of a fraud. So even with all that being said, he still wasn't a reach, because I'm looking at these coaching hires, bro, and it's like Kevin Stefanski, that's it. But he went, while he did his job, he also went to a Cleveland team that people were forgetting was set up really well and was coming off of a good season back there with Freddie Kitchens.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with that. I'm going to go ahead and say that this is not an overreaction. I do think they were both a reach a bit. It's not to say that it can't work out. That's the thing too. It's not to say that it can't work out. But I do think that when you draft your quarterback the year before you bring in the coach, and they're both kind of question marks, that guys who are not like super proven. Daniel Jones, if even going back to Duke, was not a winner over there really like that. Very subpar kind of a record. And Joe Judge really having no experience. But Joe Judge is a good talker, and it seems like he might have won the job off good talking.
Talker.
But right now I'm going to say that it is a reach. Joe Judge has not done much with this team. Has not instilled the mental toughness that he claims to bring to the table and whatnot. So
can I just interject real quick?
Yeah, for sure.
To what Nicholas is saying. Yeah, there was mutual interest between Matt Rule and the Giants, but are we forgetting this man chose Carolina that one night, and then the very next morning we hired Judge? It's not like we chose somebody over him. He chose somebody over us. Like, is that not what happened?
It could be that. You never know, man. Lot goes on. What I would do to be a fly in the wall, on the wall in that room when they were having that interview, would be amazing. But it's hindsight now, and it's easier to judge things in hindsight. And I think a lot of things with overreactions deal with seeing things in hindsight for sure. You're like looking at Andrew Thomas being like, hey, he's looking pretty good, but there were other guys out there we could have maybe got. And you're looking at the quarterback situation, you're looking at the running back selected at number 2, you're looking at the money we paid Kenny Galladay, you're looking at the OBJ trade, you're looking at this defense, you're looking at the money we spent. There's a lot of question marks here with the New York Giants, man, and it's been tough, man. I got another super chat here one more time. Shout out to the homie Joseph Clark one time in the building. Best performance in Judge era. I feel much better. I'm glad you brought that point up. I felt great watching that offense move up and down the field. And honestly, when the Washington football team scored on the 2-play drive, I felt pretty good about it because the offense was doing so well. I was just like, we'll be okay. They hadn't stopped us on many drives all day. I don't know how many punts were on the books.
They didn't stop us on any time Daniel Jones ran.
Yeah, they didn't stop us. I mean, Daniel Jones was picking this defense apart with his legs and with his arm. Him and Sterling Shepard were just balling out. I love what I saw from the offense. This is what that offense can look like. And then if you add the catch from Darius Slayton, my God, it's a perfect day for Daniel Jones, and it's a perfect day for Darius Slayton.
We put up 36 points, man.
Yeah, it would have been nice. It was good to get to the 29. This was the highest point scored in the Jason Garrett era of being the offensive coordinator. So it was really nice to see them put up 29 points. My prediction for the score of this game was 27-13. So offensively, they did what I wanted them to do, but defensively, just couldn't stop them, man. It was just a tough. This is a tough L because we dominated them in the first half, but we allowed them in the second quarter to put points up on the board and go into the half winning, leading. Which to me, it just felt in the stadium. I was like, we supposed to be winning this game by like 10. Like, why are we down at the half again? And it just goes back to what I'm talking about with finishing in the second quarter and finishing in the fourth quarter is super important for a team that doesn't know how to win yet. And we thought that maybe this team, last year finishing off kind of strong. Yeah, it was only 6 wins. We kind of felt like they were getting over the hump a little bit. And, we were going to see a team come into this season that was going to know how to win. But this eerily feels like that Carolina Panthers loss that we had a couple years ago on the game-winning 63-yard field goal. And I think the same year we lost to Philadelphia on a 60-yard field goal.
No, so Carolina was 2018, Philadelphia was 2017. I would say it feels more like the Philly one than the Carolina one for a couple of reasons, like division opponent, obviously, and then for both of those teams, it was a must-win game, and that was the game that kickstarted Philly's 10-game win streak in their Super Bowl year. So,
yeah, man, it's definitely starting to feel like that. And that year, I just remember like losing a lot of close games. I mean, I felt like there was 8 games. There was some record the Giants had. It was like 8 or 9 games by under 6 or something that we had lost. And the differential in the points was like a record or something like that, which to me is just ridiculous.
Did you answer the second part of the question yet, by the way? The Judge part? I heard you say the Jones part.
Yeah, they're both. Okay. They were both a reach, man. Joe Judge being a special teams guy, like what have you done? The proof is in the pudding. I'd rather bring in a guy who has some proof that he can do this in the league.
The thing is, if we restart, the Giants need to, for the first time in probably their history, go get somebody from the outside that has no connections to this organization. Yeah. Because we've been getting people that's connected to it for so long. And I don't know, maybe it's limiting our field of view. Maybe it's limiting the scope of the coaches available out there and the GMs available out there. But it ain't working. So go and get somebody that's just not connected to us, man.
Yeah, I think that's important, man. And maybe this has a lot to do with, the head of the top office, man, with John Mara over there, and the decisions that he's making. Because we're stuck. We're really stuck. And it's starting to get annoying. I know for fans, this is really tough, man. But let's take it. We got 3 more questions before we get up out of here on the second episode of Giant Overreaction. For those that don't know, we do a podcast. If you're new here, me and my homie The Beard do a podcast, Awthentik and The Beard, on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. Salute to my homies in the chat right now. This show is normally on Mondays, Giant Overreaction, where I bring in a content creator or a fan to come chop it up, and we get about 5 to 6 questions and see if it's an overreaction from the fan base. So next up, and I like this question a lot. I think this was probably the biggest question that was going around on Twitter. And we know going into the season, a lot of people wanted to see this guy up out of here. So tell me if you think this is an overreaction or not. Jason Garrett called a winning game plan last night versus the Washington football team.
I'm going to say that he did enough for us to win because 29 points should be enough to win a game. And I remember when we were talking before stream started, part of that you were saying, we should reference the drive after we got the interception where we basically went 3 and out. And I was like, I think that's more Judge than Garrett, which we've both sort of expressed so far in this stream, where it's like a lot of these conservative / safe type of play calling and decisions are coming from the head coach rather than the offensive coordinator. So I'm going to say, yeah, Jason Garrett, he did enough. He did enough for us to win this game. It was by far his best game he's ever called for us, and a lot of that has to do with protection. A lot of that has to do with the fact that Daniel Jones was making throws. But if you're going to refer to stuff like that one drive, I'm going to say that's Judge. If you're going to put blame on him, though, I'll put blame on the drive where Slayton did drop the pass, and then we didn't do anything after that at all, after he dropped the pass.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you on this one, too. I'll definitely take another. I don't think that this is an overreaction. Jason Garrett called a great game plan, man. And, I was at the tailgate and whatnot. We were getting a little saucy. I was trying to make sure that I was, good enough to be able to watch that game in its entirety and watch every play and judge every play. Shout out to Talk of Giants and Bobby and Justin over there. Bobby posted something this morning where he showed the one formation that Saquon Barkley was in. It was like a bunched formation, and that play did stand out to me. I remember being at the game being like, what in the hell are they doing right here? They had Sterling Shepard in motion. He motioned to the left side and kind of stayed behind the tight end. They had another wide receiver tight, and it's like you're screaming, we're about to run the ball here, where everything outside of the game, outside of that play that was within the game plan, was very solid running the ball. I don't think that Washington expected the New York Giants to come out and run as much RPO as we did, and it caught them off guard.
Yeah.
When I went back and watched the replay or the television replay, you could see even the cameraman is getting faked out from some of those RPO fakes, and Daniel Jones doing a fantastic job of reading it and knowing when to keep it and when to give it to Saquon and whatnot. And I also liked how Jason Garrett neglected the run late in the game, kind of. It seemed like he knew that we weren't going to be able to run the ball. So when we ran it, he wanted to be creative with it, which I really liked. We passed the ball a ton in this game. And Daniel Jones just shined. Running the ball, he looked fantastic. Just imagine if you don't get that that block
literally
late and
put
you don't
the
get
team on
what you
his
call
back,
it.
bro.
Just imagine if you don't get that block late and you don't get the and the drop from Darius Slayton. I mean, this
That's
is like
what is that? That's 43 points, bro. That's 43 points.
And you'd have a 100-yard rusher at quarterback and a 300-yard thrower in one game. I mean, it'd be the perfect game for Daniel Jones. It's what we want to see from him. So for me, yeah, I think Jason Garrett called an amazing game plan. Teams are going to be on notice now that we're going to use Daniel Jones more to run the ball. The great part that I saw about this too is the confidence. Everybody who was saying, I don't think they're confident in Daniel Jones, that we saw in this game plan, that was completely wrong, because Daniel Jones, one, he was really smart when it was time to slide, but he also was aggressive when he needed to be aggressive. And when you look at the touchdown run on the quarterback draw and you look at the big run that had the penalty on it, he was just aggressive with the run. And he's outrunning. Usually defensive linemen, they're usually about as fast as quarterbacks. I saw someone, I think it was Chase Young chasing or Montez Sweat chasing on that run. Daniel Jones is just flying by them. So we got to be able to use his speed.
He's very fast in straight line speed.
Yeah. Once he cuts that edge and he gets going, he's super fast. Love what I saw from Jason Garrett. And still on Twitter today, man, I still see a lot of people, like still calling for Jason Garrett. They're looking at the last 3 plays, like, you gotta win it there or whatever. But like I'm telling you, man,
that's
throwing interception is a problem.
That last offensive drive for me is all on Judge, because it goes back to what he was aiming to do. He was aiming to for some reason take a field goal and give the ball back, and he had faith in our defense, which I'm like, you know what, bro? I'm glad you believe in your players so much, but they've been really bad this game. They've been really bad for 2 games, and they've clearly shown that they can't stop a nosebleed. So I'm gonna just disagree with you there, Mr. Joe Judge. But I agree with you. Anybody that blames this game on 2 people, because I've even seen people say Daniel Jones was the reason this lost this game, and I'm like, you were not watching the same game I was watching. There's people that are legitimately just doing that for attention. I can't think of any other reason. They're saying Jason Garrett and they're saying Daniel Jones is the reason we lost for attention, when Jason Garrett and Daniel Jones was like the main bright spot of this game. And once again, it's coming from somebody. I don't like Jason Garrett. I'm not going to sit here and lie to y'all, and Awthentik knows this.
Yes.
I am not a fan of Jason Garrett. Last year, I wanted the man gone after like week 3, week 4. This year, I wanted him gone after week 1. And I said, prove me wrong. And at least for this game, he called the best game of his stint here with New York. And a lot of the stuff that happened in the game, both offensively and when it come to penalties and having touchdown call back and stuff like that, reminds me of week 5 Dallas last year.
Man,
a really similar type of play.
That was that game, right?
Yeah, and we had a couple points taken off the board because the refs called it back. I'm just like, wow, his 2 best offensive games are unfortunately games that we lost because of like mistakes that are being made, not by him.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, man. Let me get to the super chat real quick one time. Shout out to the homie 24 seconds in the building, Giants Nation in the building one time. Shep, O-line, DJ carrying the team on offense. This is facts, man. Love what I'm seeing from Sterling Shepard. Dude has been A1 for 2 games. He's been a number 1 wide receiver. The numbers are just incredible. And like I said, I think a lot of that is happening because of Kenny Golladay on the outside. You got to keep that safety over the top. I actually got some good footage too. I'm gonna be chopping up. Y'all should see some of that on the Tuesday recap show that me and the Beard are gonna be doing. Make sure to check that out because I got some really close footage. I had a good zoom lens in there, and you can really see the safety was over the top on Kenny Golladay all day, which opened things up underneath for Sterling Shepard to just do his thing. O-line, man, played fantastic. Love what I'm seeing out of them. Even with the injury to Nick Gates, gruesome leg break. You know what I love what I saw from Nick Gates is when he was getting carted off the field, he was just like smiling, just like, man, I'm a dog. It's all good.
I'm telling you, bro. Rob Sale, Ben Wilkerson, who's been with the staff for a while as well, and Pat Flaherty, all those guys, they need more props. I don't think they're getting enough attention. Like you just said it, I said it earlier, that when Nick Gates went out, we all saw how the offense was affected, and it took them a while to adjust. But coming out the half, that line was doing this thing when it came to pass protection. If they could get some run blocking down, like that is honestly, I don't think this is an overreaction. I think that would be one of the better lines in the league because they've gone up against 2 good pass rushers. And they've performed very, very well against them.
Yeah, that's facts, man. And moving people around, being banged up, not having the greatest options at right tackle, struggling guard situations, new guys coming into this team like within just a couple of weeks ago. And to see them pass blocking like that and to see Daniel Jones' confidence in the pocket in this game, I don't know if it was because I was at the game, but he just stood in that pocket, man. They were blocking well, and he trusted it, and that's what I loved about it. I think that this offense is going to be able to put up. We're going to see higher scoring than we saw in this game. That 29 was good. I think we're going to get a couple of 30s this year, and maybe a 40. Or if we can play a flawless game like we're about 2 or 3 plays away from in this game, you can see the Giants put up 40. You can't forget that we started off pretty slow in this game. Didn't put up a ton of points in the first half. And the second half was a different story. You saw both teams trying to light it up in the second half, man. So, yeah, I totally agree with a lot that you said there. I want to see more from Jason Garrett. I do. I'm curious. Now I got one good game and I got one bad game. So I need more tally marks here to see how Jason Garrett's going to do here by the time we get to about week 8. And see where we stand and see if he's a guy that, we talked about this on the Overreaction Monday on the first joint with Pest, where we were like, one of the questions was Jason Garrett should be fired. Is that an overreaction? Back then in week 1, it seemed like it wasn't an overreaction. Now we got week 2. It seems like maybe that was an overreaction. Jason Garrett seems like
is week 3's question going to be? Is week 3's question going to be should Patrick Graham be fired? Because what is this man going to do week 3?
I don't think we can. With Jason Garrett, there's been so many problems throughout last season, and just a dismal year from Daniel Jones. A lot of people want to put that on Jason Garrett. I think with Patrick Graham, it's a little bit different. They saw a defense that was, for me, a little bit overrated, but still rated high. So he's had consistency having this defense
for just one year.
For just 1 year, yeah. And now we come in and we got 2 bad games. If we get 3 bad games, it's going to be room for concern for sure. This Atlanta game is now truly a must-win.
This is my fear from Patrick Graham. It's a fear, so I'm not saying it's going to happen. And I said in my rant today as well, in Miami, he didn't have a good defense. That's why when we hired him initially, the only coach Giants fans were like, all right, bro, I don't know what to expect from him, was Patrick Graham. Because when he was in Miami, they were not a good defense in that 2019 year. But we were like, it was his first year as a defensive coordinator. Let's see what he does. In his second year in a new team, complete new personnel, he showed out. He had a defense that honestly kind of overperformed, and that's a good thing. He did a great job.
Yeah.
This year, even though they're running different plays on the defensive side of the ball and whatnot, in my head, I'm like, it's reminding me of what I read about his defense in Miami in terms of what they're letting up with points and stuff like that. And I'm just like, we've had one good year from him and one bad year, not with us, but from his career as a defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
I really hope that the good year is more of a sign of what he actually is and that he can adjust. And like you said, that's what we're looking forward to in Atlanta. But I just want to point out, before he came to the Giants, he did have a bad year as a defensive coordinator in Miami.
Yeah, that's real, man. Shout out to the homie Mr. HD in the building one time. What's up, Laylo? How you living, fam? The Patrick Graham thing is interesting because, last year the defense was ranked high, but the reason why I came in this year saying they might be a little bit overrated along with the Washington football team defense was because the secondary and the linebacker coverage doesn't jump off the page. You know what I'm saying? It's like when we're making plays, it just doesn't seem like a dominant defense. We weren't that high up in takeaways, I believe. I don't got the numbers in front of me right now, but it doesn't seem like the Giants get a lot of takeaways. And I think that's something that they really need to work on. We sent a little bit of blitz in the first game against Denver, which in return opened up the middle of the field. And then you come out here against Washington on Thursday night and you run a lot of zone defense, and we don't get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. But I think a lot of this reason why this scheme and this personnel is not working in these first 2 games, it has a lot to do with not getting pressure on the quarterback. To me, that's the number one thing. The edge is, we know that you get pressure off the edge. Interior pressure is a great thing, but when you have edge pressure, now your interior pressure is going to look better. And I talked about this on the opposite side of the ball with Andrew Thomas being at left tackle in the right guard or left guard situation with him. When you don't got a good left guard there, then Daniel Jones drops back 9 yards. When it's time to step up, he's got nowhere to step up if the left guard is being pushed back into the quarterback. Now, I feel like on the opposite side of the ball now with our Giants defense, Leonard Williams is getting some pressure. He's never being dominated up front where you see a D lineman pushing him backwards onto his side of the field. He's always getting penetration on their side of the field. But then when you don't have that edge, a guy like Taylor Heinicke can just sneak outside easy. So for me, I think the main thing to fix Patrick Graham is get pressure on the quarterback. Zoe Carter, they talked about him, highly touted coming into this season. It's not working. O'Shane
not showing
Ximines
up.
is
Yeah.
not working. Aziz
Nobody.
is getting the sack. It's still not working. I know the sacks look
Yeah.
good for 2 weeks in a row, but still,
No,
it's
they
like,
don't. I would even disagree with that statement. They don't, because the first one was a coverage sack, and the second
yeah.
one after he got that, he disappeared.
But I say it
there's
looks
been
good to
no
the
pass
person
rush.
who's like really not paying attention to the game and they just see the numbers.
Okay.
Oh, we got a rookie out there who's got 2 sacks in 2 games. It's like, oh, he's
Yeah.
playing fantastic. I saw somebody on my Twitter respond to something, say he's balling out. PFF had him graded as the worst player on the defense the first week. I haven't looked into the numbers this week, and I know a lot of people are sketchy about the PFF numbers, but I mean, they're analyzing the game. Like, it's a perspective to be, at least take it into consideration, And outside of that, outside of Aziz, okay, you get a sack from your rookie in each of the first 2 games. We're not getting no pressure on the quarterback, and these guys are covering. Look at the play with Taylor Heineke with the touchdown that he got to Seals Jones over Adoree Jackson, right? He looked at it and he didn't like what he saw at first. And then he was like, oh, but it's one-on-one. You see a hesitation, and then he just goes, I'm going to throw this up back shoulder high. Perfect throw. Throw don't get better than that, and a perfect throw is going to beat perfect coverage every time.
And I'll say this. Every time a quarterback dropped back so far this year with Teddy and with Taylor, they almost always have a perfect pocket. And I'm just like, there's no way we're not getting any type of pressure. Somebody said in the chat earlier, and I agree with them strongly, they were like, yo, it seems like every single one of our pass rushers, it's like they're stuck in the mud. They don't have a second move. Like they just run up to the lineman and they get blocked.
Yeah.
And I will say this, I mentioned that last year in a video about Leonard Williams in the middle of his breakout year. I was like, yeah, he's having a good year, but one of the things I don't like about him is that like he takes very long to employ his second move. Like one of the sacks he got on Russell Wilson, for example, in that Seahawks game, he ran up to the lineman and he stood there with his hands on the lineman's chest. And I'm guessing he was pushing. I'm not going to assume he was just standing there, but it looked as if he was just standing there with his hands. And then like a second pass, which obviously in game time is a lot of time, a whole second pass before he was like, you know what, let me hit a spin move. And then I'm like, why was he so slow to do that? And you go and you look at the highlights of these games, when you see these quarterbacks have these perfect pockets, and I'm like, yeah, they're not really doing any second move. They're just running up and putting their hands on them.
Yeah, and that kind of technique, I don't know if it's a coaching thing or what, or if these guys are going off script or what, but it's something that needs to be addressed for sure. For me, I'm the kind of guy, and I date back to watching games that had Lawrence Taylor in them. So I'm the kind of guy that, like, I don't expect a lot of pressure from the interior. It's very rare that you get guys who can get a lot of sacks from the interior. Warren Sapp is the name that first comes to mind. Aaron Donald, there's only a few guys that really could dominate from the inside, and a lot of those guys have edge help. I think the Giants need edge help. I think that
we do.
It's the number one thing for me, man. And I also think that when Leo was with the Jets, that was the problem, because they were talking about how he would get a lot of pressure, but he would never get to the quarterback. And I think that was the problem over there too. You don't got no edge rusher to pair with him, and edge rusher is a 2-man job. Get 2 guys out there that can really put the pressure on the quarterback from the outside.
Somehow managed to get more pressure. Obviously, it's only 2 games, but we somehow managed to get more pressure last year with our 6th and 7th round guys in Cam Brown and Carl Coughlin than we are this year with the guys who's ahead of him. And I don't get how they're going to need to improve, especially because once again, the way the organization talked up Lorenzo Carter specifically about how good he looks, and I'm just like, where is that? And we saw it. We saw some of it last year. It's just like, yo, where is that? Where is he right now?
Yeah, man, it's crazy. I see my homie Tommy in the chat one time. Salute to the homie Tommy Bernhardt. He says, it's a pretty funny one. He said, whoa, Tim isn't so ginger tonight. Word up,
I got a hair dye.
Yeah, shout out to the new cut, man. I'm loving the new cut. It's looking good on you too, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. This man Awthentik with the fade as well. Don't.
Yeah, I kept the fade tucked under the hat for first couple episodes. It was a little bit too fresh. But make sure y'all sub up to the hub. I want to say the Beard put his channel in the information on this video. And also check him out on Twitter at @thehub_YT. We got just a couple more questions here on Giant Overreaction. Make sure y'all check us out Tuesday. We're going to be doing the full recap show with the Beard. Thursday, we're going to be doing a preview show for the next games for Week 3. And also don't forget us on Sunday on the parlay, man. We got a busy schedule as far as podcasting goes. But let's get into this next one here. Let's see. What was our next question? We got the defense overrated. Got the Kenny Giadori. We got the quarterback and the head coach. It was a reach. We got the Garrett game plan. We got 2 more questions for you, Hub. We're going to start here one time. The Giants are much like last year's team and won't make the playoffs. Is this an overreaction, or is this really what it is?
Can I go in the middle? Yo.
Yeah, you can take the push if you want.
I'm going to take the push on this one because I'm not about to sit here and rewrite my own history. My reaction video after the game, I literally said this. I was one of the guys that was like, the season's over. You know, and that was my raw, like, I literally told Kid Blue, bro, because we were streaming the game. I'm like, bro, I'm so angry. I'm so sad, disappointed right now, bro. I thank you guys for tuning in, but I'm going to be out. I left. I recorded my reaction video. So it's super fresh, super raw. And it like, at that time, I felt like I really believed it. I'm like, what has this team shown me that they could put something together to go along with this budding Daniel Jones and this budding offensive line to help us win games? They haven't shown me anything yet. But then that's why I'm taking the push, because it's still yet. And I'm just like, you know what? Atlanta's got to be that game where I guess we really take the true answer from this. But I will say, I'm not necessarily angry at myself for having that thought, because we start 0-2 every single season since 2017, and we've never made the playoffs. And you don't need to look at us. You look historically, teams that start 0-2, it's like, what, a 17% chance of making the playoffs or something like that. It's very, very unlikely that happens. Even with the NFC least, if you want to call it that, it's very unlikely you start off 0-2 and you gonna make the playoffs. It just doesn't happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely with you on that. I kind of want to take the push here too, but I'm going to say that this is not an overreaction. I think this team is very similar to last year's team. They're going to play a lot of close games. I predicted that we would lose to the Broncos, and I thought that we would come out here against Washington and get the W. And, you know, the game against Washington shows you that the New York Giants still aren't a team that's ready to win. It's still being based upon 1 and 2 plays why we lose games. And that only happens to bad teams. You know, a good team can come back from a turnover or two. And in this game, clean game from Daniel Jones in this offense. No turnovers. I called that. I said, let me tell you what my game plan was for this entering into this Washington game. I said the New York Giants are going to control this game throughout the game, and in the fourth quarter, we're going to go ahead, and then Taylor Heinicke is going to press because he's going to need a touchdown to win the game, and we'll get our turnover. It damn near went exactly like that, except we left a little bit too much time on the clock, and our defense didn't show up. Once again, couldn't find a way to win it. And honestly, we could have skated out of this game if Dexter Lawrence doesn't jump off sides. I think there's no excuse for that. You're right over the center of the ball. You jump off sides. To me, those are things that bad teams do, undisciplined teams do. You know, a disciplined team.
And once again, we undisciplined with a guy that loves to preach and say that we're disciplined.
Right. That's a problem. You know, that is very hypothetical to preach yourself as a head coach who's a guy who instills all these mental toughness and, you know, sound play, and we're going to be disciplined and all this. And then you come out of the game and you pretty much got 10 penalties, you know, and major penalties. We got 1 penalty that brings back a touchdown, and then you get 1 penalty that really cost you the game. I mean, I don't care what nobody says. I know that games don't come down to a play, but if he doesn't jump off sides there, the Giants are walking away, skating away with a W, and we're not so upset when it comes to, you know, the day after the game and whatnot. So for me, yeah, I do not think that this is a overreaction. I'm going to take the under. I know you want to still keep the hope for the team to have playoffs in mind, which I still will too, but my thing is I want proof.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt about the Joe Judge question about him being a reach as a coach. I want proof. Can you prove to me that you can win with this team? We spent a lot of money. We spent a lot of draft capital. Dave Gettleman, I think you're just as much to blame as Joe Judge, because these are the people that you hired in a way, right? You bring these guys in, and they're coming in and they're not changing things. We're looking at 5-11 with Patrick Shermer, but we were looking at a more explosive offense. So we get rid of Pat Shermer. The offense takes a step back. The defense takes a step forward.
And now we're in the Pat Shermer situation again.
We're right back in the Pat Shermer situation again going into week 3. So I totally understand fans right now. I see Bark Nasty in the chat. Shout out to my man Bark Nasty one time. Always got good comments about the Giants, who was talking about we might have like 3 to 4 wins. It's not going to surprise me. A lot of people came into this season in the Giants community predicting the Giants to get 10 wins. And I think it's more realistic to look at us like in that 3 to 4 win range right now, maybe 4 to 5. With the extra game on the schedule and whatnot. But the 10 wins seems like something that's so far out of reach right now, especially with some juggernauts on the schedule. Kansas City Chiefs, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You got the Saints, who are a little bit unknown right now with Jameis Winston at quarterback. But this Atlanta game now becomes a must-win. These games that were on the schedule that we felt that you have to kind of win or were winnable games, we're losing them now. And Washington was one of them. We're going to get a second shot last game of the season, which, you know, we can maybe split with them. But it's time to figure this out, you know, as a New York Giant fan. For me, I'm getting very frustrated. It's hard to
Hmm.
keep my cool. I almost went live last night, but I like had no voice. As you could tell today, I'm like even more raspier than I normally am. But I almost went live last night right when I got back. It was gonna be like a 1 a.m. stream because I was
Hmm.
just so frustrated. Instead, I just stayed up and watched as much content as I could outside of the content creator community and the Giants community because I wanted to hear what a lot of the media had to say about this game. So I looked at the press conference with Joe Judge. I looked at a lot of the stuff with First Take in the morning with I still haven't seen what Skip and Shannon said about this, but I looked at Max Kellerman and got their opinion on it. And we just look like a losing team, man. Losing teams find ways to lose games. So yeah, I don't think this one's an overreaction for sure.
Yeah, that's why I'm like the push is there. The only reason I don't go completely with you is because I'm like we'll see what happens in Atlanta. But at the beginning of the year when we first got the schedule, I'm like I always said, and I think I told you, I'm like I just got a feeling we're gonna lose to Washington Thursday night. I don't know why. I just always had that feeling that we're not gonna go into Washington and win against them this year. It's exactly what happened. But with that feeling, I assumed we were gonna be 1-1, not 0-2. And
Yeah.
exactly like you said, that it's a basically like a 8 game stretch from the Saints all the way to week 11 to Tampa Bay, where it's like if we continue to look like this, there's very much a chance that at the end of week 11 we're 0-11, which is
Whew.
crazy to
Oh
think
my
about,
God. I don't even that's
right? But
ridiculous.
that's very much a chance right now.
Yeah, it
And
is.
it's like I hate being in a situation where every single week is a must-win game because we started very early this year. Week 2 was a must-win game and we didn't win it. So where does
Yeah.
that leave you when you lose your must-win game? Like,
Yeah.
how many more
And you don't
must-win
want
games
this
are
to
you going to
turn
have?
into those earlier seasons we had where it was like 0-6 and you're just begging for a W.
Exactly. And like
Then you know we're in trouble.
I was saying earlier, this might be an overreaction. This was towards the beginning of the show, but I could 100% see this team giving up on this coaching staff because there's already a little bit of problems in the wide receiver room. And with the style of coach that Judge is, or I should say at this point, that Judge claims to be the disciplinarian, the hard guy, he's the easiest kind of coach that loses the locker room because all it takes is a lot of losing, and the locker room already just like sells their stock in you. And honestly, I'm really starting to question because we've seen so many mistakes. I'm like, is there really a disciplinary culture, or are they just
Is it
covering up,
really? Right.
or are they just covering it up way better than they have in past years? Because it
Yeah.
goes back to the mistakes that are being made, and it goes back to Kenny Galladay with his outbursts on the sideline, which I'm not about to sit here and paint the picture as if I'm against that. I'm never
Yeah.
against players showing their emotion, but if we have that quote unquote culture, that doesn't happen, in my opinion. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
And how maybe that culture is backfiring. I saw Keyshawn talking about this too, where he was saying like, the rah-rah coaches that be all in your face and like all blowing whistles and doing all that stuff. He talked about it with Chris Canty and asking him like, did that actually like make you a better player? And Chris Canty was just like, man, I was chasing the dollars. I was pretty much trying to get my money. So it was like the whistles really didn't help me. I was out there just trying to make plays because I knew that's how I was going to make my bucks.
Mm-hmm.
So it says something to men who are in the NFL. Like, is that the way you coach them up with like discipline? Like you're disciplining a pee-wee football player, by making them run laps, having coaches run laps and things like that. I don't know. I'm
One
not an
thing people got
NFL
to realize
coach.
is that the NFL is a job for a lot of people. There's a Hall of Famer. I think he was last year, or the year before that, when he got inducted. He was like, "I'm a Hall of Famer, which is amazing. I'm glad that I am. I am that. I'm one of the best football players to ever play, and I feel really bad I'm forgetting his name." But he stated that I never liked playing football. Football was always a job for me, and even though I
Wow.
was good at it, I never loved or liked the game of playing football. So I'm
Hmm.
just like, I just want to put that out. That's a Hall of Fame saying that. Yes, for a
Yeah, that's
lot of
facts.
players out there, it's a job. You know what
And
I'm
it's a
saying? So
very
they're gonna do
violent,
what they got to do.
aggressive sport too, man. You putting your
Yeah.
life on the line every day, pretty much while you're out there. We know how that is for sure, man.
Hmm.
Let me get to this super chat one time. Kevin says bonus question, which yeah, we can always bring bonus questions up on the Giant Overreaction. If y'all ever feel like y'all want to have y'all ask your own questions, totally bring them up in the chat. We'll definitely try to address them. He says bonus question: overreaction despite the loss to Washington football. Oh no, despite the loss, Washington football team continues its yearly tradition of padding Daniel Jones' value. Is this an overreaction, or are we taking the under on that? That's a great question,
I
Kevin. I
mean,
appreciate that, bro.
did we say this on? I can't remember if it was on stream or off stream where I was like, I'm really happy and proud and all the good superlatives you could think of for Daniel Jones and his performance. But the back of my mind is still like, I mean, he always performs amazing against Washington. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna agree with this man right here.
I'm going to say that this is an overreaction simply because Washington football team is not a team that has some kind of pushover defense.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows they can ball with the best of them. We saw it against Tom Brady in the playoffs. We saw it all season last season. All the games that they played against the Giants have been pretty close. Can't forget that we snuck out with the victory when Riverboat Ron tried to go for the 2-point conversion and they didn't get that one too. So I'm gonna say it's an overreaction as of right now. But if somebody were to tell me like, yeah, they think that's for sure and that's real, I wouldn't argue with them too much on that because Daniel Jones has 4 wins against the Washington football team, and Giants were going for their 6th straight win against the Washington football team in this game, which that kind of scared me too. When we look at last week against the Broncos, Vic Fangio, he was 0-7 in September in his career, and we just gave him his first September win. So this is 2 streaks that kind of came to an end here against the New York Giants. But I'm going to go ahead and say for now that this is an overreaction. I'm going to give Daniel Jones the rest of the year to prove that he can put up big numbers against other teams outside of the Washington football team. And so I guess we can put a button on that one right there. We got more, I believe.
Definitely. I think I already spoke on it, but it's the most annoying part is just the cycle of switching which part of the team is going to be good and never putting it together.
Yep, and then that's what bad teams do, man. They figure out where to point the finger, and the Giants are definitely a bad team right now, starting off 0-2 first 2 weeks of the 2021 season. I got one more question for you up here, or one more statement that might be an overreaction or might not be.
This was the one I had to request. I had to request that this one be last, man.
This is one of my favorites, man. Y'all know I'm a big fan. So, trading Odell Beckham Jr. for Jabril Peppers, O'Shane Ximenez, and Dexter Lawrence was a win. Is that an overreaction, or are you going to take the under?
I'm not going to give my answer yet. I'm going to first give my explanation. All right. Odell has,
what up, Isaiah? What up,
has
fam?
had a good 1,000-yard season for the Browns. I think that was in 2019, his first year with the Browns, right?
Mm-hmm.
In
4 touchdowns.
2020, let me just pull up his stats before I misspeak on the dude. What did he do in 2020?
He struggled in 2020 before getting hurt on the interception play where he was trying to tackle.
So, he got hurt, and he hasn't played in 2021 yet. So, in 3 years with the Browns, he's played that one really good season, struggled, injured, and now injured hasn't started yet. Now, I'm going to say once again, the Browns are in a really good situation, just like I said when we were discussing Kevin Stefanski. The Browns have had success without Odell. They went to the playoffs last year without Odell. They won a playoff game without Odell. I'm not sure if they necessarily need Odell, right? I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah,
the Giants,
a lot of cooks in that Cleveland Browns kitchen. They got a lot of talent over there, everywhere.
And you could even argue Jarvis has been better than him in Cleveland.
Yeah,
I think that's an argument that could be made.
Now he's definitely been better.
Going over to the Giants side, and let's look at the 3 years that we've had these players. So, Jabril, O'Shane, Dexter. O'Shane has not really done anything for me to really call him a good player on the Giants yet. I'm not sure if that's a hot take or anything. But I mean, he didn't really show up in his first 2 years. Third year, I guess it's too early to tell, but there's nothing that stands out for me with O'Shane. Dexter, even though he just lost us this big game, he's been a really good player for us, and I really do like him. He's a young guy that I really think could stick with us and could be a good nose tackle that could push, not necessarily break the pocket from the inside. And then Jabril is up and down. Jabril is really up and down because he was a guy last year that was almost like a MVP on the defense. One of those guys that really shone. Is that the past tense of shine? Whatever it is. One of those guys that shined, if that's wrong.
There you go.
Yeah. One of those guys that did that verb last year. But then he's like missing this year. Part of it, I think, he's sharing a lot more snaps with McKinney. But even then, the snaps he is getting, he's really kind of getting exposed in a sense, I guess. So you really compare it, and I'm like, yo, you got 2 losing situations on your hands, in my opinion. I think both sides right now are at a loss. I remember at one point we were saying both sides won. I think both sides lost, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, you the first one I heard say that because a lot of people did say that both sides won the trade.
I think both sides lost the trade, man. I'm going to keep it real.
Saying both sides lost, yeah, because, I see some people in the chat saying, I actually want to highlight some of these comments because the chat was going off with this one. This might be the best question of the day for real.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just scroll back just a little bit. Okay, so Afghan says OBJ is currently in street clothes, which brings me to a point that I brought up on Twitter. No Mets, no Nets, no Jets. I like that. It's a dope name, bro. Also says Odell ain't available. So now this is what I like to say about this. My whole thing about this is I wanted to see Odell Beckham with Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones. We saw it with Eli Manning, and that was Saquon Barkley's best season, his rookie year, his best season you ever saw. And I like to relate this back to one of my favorite films, It's called The Butterfly Effect with Ashton Kutcher, who was a terrible actor. It was a great concept in the movie about how when you do something or you change something in the future, how when you do something in the past, it'll change what happened in the future. Now,
Oh,
I
so
know
it's literally named after the theory then?
yeah, it's literally named after the
Okay.
theory, right? So, and he's in the movie, he's pretty much trying to fix things in his past, but then in the future, it messes something else up. Like he'll do something where he saves his girlfriend or whatnot, and then she ends up like getting into a car accident or whatever, and like her legs are, paralyzed or something crazy like that, right? Now, I think it's the same kind of vibe. Like a lot of people are just like set in stone that Odell's hurt, and that's exactly what would have happened if he would have stayed here. Now, you got to think that you got to know that Odell Beckham going to Cleveland was never going to be the focus of that offense. Stefanski, we just praised him as a head coach. He's a great offensive mind over there, and they know what the identity is over there. It's the running game with Chubb and Hunt. They got two of the best running backs in the league, and that's what they're going to live and die by. And with the New York Giants, it's really hard to find our identity, and I also think that that's why it's really hard to find wins right now is because, when in doubt, where do you go on the New York Giants? Do you allow your defense to get out there and try to make a stop to win the game? Do you put the ball in the hands of your quarterback? To make a play at the end of the game? Do you have a running back that you can rely on and just hand it to him every time, like Ezekiel Elliott when he was in his prime? Dallas Cowboys got a lot of wins when Zeke was in his prime by just handing him the ball and going straight, right? The Giants don't have an identity, and I'm hoping I can find this other comment here too, where somebody was saying the wins and losses was a wash, but when Odell Beckham was here, we had an identity. We knew that when it was time to make the play, you could go to Odell Beckham on a slant.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's talk about these three players that we got in exchange for him. To me, Jabril Peppers is probably the most overhyped player on the New York Giants defense. Like, he is literally getting cooked in coverage almost all the time. It's very rare that he makes a play. If you look back at the play, the one play I remember Jabril Peppers making, I believe it was in the Washington game late, and he made like a big stop on the sidelines where he like ran over, he followed a tight end all the way across the field and made a tackle or something like that. But outside of that, I just feel like Jabril Peppers has kind of been like a bad Landon Collins. At least with Landon Collins, you knew you were going to get the run support necessary to stop the run and help out your front, front four from stopping the run. Wasn't great in coverage outside of his rookie season, but in his rookie year, I think he had like 5 interceptions or something like that. He had a good rookie
That was his
campaign.
second year.
That was the second year, okay.
Yeah.
Second year, he had a pretty good campaign, and then outside of that, he kind of, wasn't an interception guy. But I always liked Landon Collins. I felt secure when Landon Collins was playing strong safety for the Giants. I felt secure. Jabril Peppers is not the same. And then when you see the Giants go out there and stack up at the safety position, it kind of lets you know they don't have full faith in a guy like Jabril Peppers. You see Sterling Shepard get the contract rearranged on the back end there. You see a guy like Shepard, they didn't do that for him yet, which if they were invested in him, I feel like they would have already done that. O'Shane Ximines, I almost didn't put his name on the question. He's been non-existent. The dude does nothing. And I think it also shows that when you have draft picks and you're going to trade a guy for draft pick or draft capital, you got to make the right pick for you to be able to win the trade. Now, for me, I've said this since day one. Odell Beckham was one of my favorite players. Call me biased if you want. That might be the case, right? But I've said this since day one. When you trade a guy like that, what you lose from the offense is worth more than what we got back for the defense. Because the Giants had an identity on offense when Odell Beckham was here, and now we don't. And I brought up everything about the butterfly effect to say this. Like, yeah, Odell Beckham's hurt. He's in street clothes right now. But don't forget that he got hurt on an interception that was thrown by Baker Mayfield when he was running down the field to try to make an aggressive tackle. You could tell he was pissed off on the interception, too, the way he, stormed back to try to make the play. The butterfly effect thing, if OBJ is in New York, there's no telling that he's going to blow out his knee again. So we can't say that that's the reason why we want to trade. And this is how I know Giants fans aren't being honest with themselves. The ones who say that we want to trade, the first thing they go to is Odell Beckham's injury. They don't go to these 3 players on the screen and go, oh, my God, Dexter Lawrence is a madman. He's a beast inside. O'Shane Ximines is coming off the edge getting crazy sacks, or Jabril Peppers is one of the best strong safeties in the league. We pretty much looking at 3 average guys here. So for me, for what it lost in our offense, we literally had to go back and pay the same amount of money almost. I think Odell Beckham's contract was like a 5-year signing for $90 million. Kenny Galladay is a 4-year signing for like 70-something million. It's almost the same amount of money. So you find yourself in the exact same situation. And I know in the offseason, a lot of Giants fans thought that we weren't going to be able to bring in Kenny Galladay. They didn't think we had enough cap space. I remember Kid Blue actually making a video about it, because most people added up to, it's math. You add it up. We didn't have the money. Somehow they found a way to get money to bring in not only another wide receiver, but also bring in a weak side corner. I believe Adoree Jackson's getting $30 million. So the money is not an issue in the NFL. And I just think that that's just more reason why we lost the trade. At least when you had Odell Beckham on the field, you knew you had a guy who could really take the top off these defenses.
And I'm gonna say this. In terms of reasoning, I was agreeing with you up until one point because you made the greatest point you made there was that what you gave up on the offense with the identity is worth more than what you gained on the defense.
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. Where you lost me though is where we get into hypotheticals. Because I agree with you. I'm both a movie guy and I'm very much a science guy. So I'm very versed with the butterfly
let me stop you real quick.
about.
Let me stop you real quick to just make it a little bit clear for you. Right? The only reason why I bring up the whole butterfly effect thing is because that is 100%. And me and Nate Talks Football was talking about this on Twitter, and I said to him the same thing. Giants fans 100% go to that. They say he's hurt. And I just say
you're just using that as a report to that statement then.
Yeah, and it's just as hypothetical as thinking that. If you think that Odell Beckham was going to have a blown out knee while he was with New York, it's just as hypothetical for me to say if he was here, that might not have happened. And to top that off too, Saquon Barkley might not have got hurt if Odell Beckham was on the field.
This is what I'll say to that. When I bring up Odell Beckham's, obviously I just said it's a lose-lose trade, so I didn't use that. But when I bring up Odell Beckham's injury, it's for me to use, like I was comparing the current stats of him and current stats of Jabril, current stats of O'Shane, Dexter. That's when I bring it up, and I do think it's fair to bring it up. Then this is what he's done in Cleveland. This is what he is worth to Cleveland, and we both agreed he's not. They could survive without him. But like I said, the best point you made is that it was not worth trading away the main guy on our offense, basically the one guy that could always bail us out. And these three guys on the defensive side of the ball, we're not sure what they're gonna do, how they're gonna do it, and all that type of thing. But no, I legitimately do think it's a lose-lose for both teams, though.
And you know why I also think the Browns won the trade, too, is because, look at it. Their wide receiver core is so stacked over there. Their tight end, they got two great tight ends over there, right? That they're able to have a guy like Odell Beckham slow play him back into an injury, or out of an injury. Whereas with Saquon Barkley, we're begging for him to be on the field because the Giants don't have no real playmakers. So we need our best playmaker in Saquon Barkley out on the field, whereas the reason why the Browns win that trade is they get rid of a guy like Peppers who you clearly see they don't need him, right? Yeah, they lost a couple draft picks, but they got a guy in Odell Beckham right now that if he can come back healthy and add to this offense, the Browns are going to be ridiculous, and they need that to make that step in the AFC. You're competing with Lamar Jackson, and you're competing with Patrick Mahomes, and you're competing with Josh Allen in Buffalo. They got a lot more pressure over there, if you ask me, in the AFC to try to win games. But that's my reasoning for maybe why that they win this, because, Odell Beckham is on the sideline in street clothes, but the Browns are still winning games, and they were one game away from the Super Bowl this past year.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying completely.
And I get the other fans who were like, Odell was a hothead. We got rid of a problem, but
and I'll say this, I think it's one of my very first videos because that trade happened early 2019. My channel was created like February 2019. From the moment it happened, I never liked the narrative, and nobody better start painting me as like an Odell apologist because you heard me say it was lose. But one thing I always hated was how much I think it was overblown that Odell was like a diva wide receiver, and it's like we're in the NFL. We've seen true diva wide receivers before. The most this man did was yell on the sideline.
Yeah, and we saw that in the second game from Kenny Galladay here. And Odell Beckham's biggest problem was that he couldn't take losing. The rest of that team seemed pretty okay with it. They're looking at Odell Beckham crazy when he's throwing stuff on the sidelines. I kind of like those guys to be on my team. Those guys can rile people up and get them to win games. And, they did have that one season there under Ben McAdoo where they got 11 wins. Granted, there was a lot of things that went the right way for us to get those wins. But for me, it's just like you just removed a staple in the offense that you knew was working. And Dave Gettleman lied to every Giants fan across the country when he said we did not sign him for $90 million to trade him, and then a week later you got Odell Beckham in a Cleveland Browns uniform. So to me, it's got to start at the top. I think, beyond this Odell Beckham question as well.
I mean, we literally heard Mara said that he made the mistake of trading him. So I'm like, we've explored this idea several times. Yeah, he said that like a couple months after the trade happened.
Oh, my God.
He was like his grandson. He was like his grandson came up to him and he's like, "Why you trade Odell?" And he was like, "From then I regret with that decision," or something like that. Something stupid like that. And then I call it stupid because it's like the way you express it, the way you just said it to the media, and how you literally say you regret the trade because your grandson is sad that Odell's gone. Like, what, bro?
Wow, that's great. And the Giants have been looking crazy in the press like that. I mean, you look at Joe Judge in the press conference the other day, why he threw the flag. we're looking like we don't know what we're doing, which is kind of crazy.
Yo, I
And
tweeted out last night, bro. James Dolan is not the worst owner in New York sports right now.
wow, yeah, that's crazy. And I think we still got some more time to come. You know, as far as like how is this going to pan out? This trade is still active. I feel like it's not. When I say that we lost the trade, it's how I feel today. It's not how I might feel in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Who knows?
Yeah,
You know?
Odell can come back and like let's say he's on the Browns, but for some reason he makes the Browns worse. Then your opinion changes. He comes back, he makes the Brown better. Your opinion stays the same. It's still active. I agree with you.
Yeah, and for me, a lot of it is not necessarily how his impact will be with the Browns. The Browns need a guy like Odell Beckham. The Browns are a better team when Odell Beckham is on the field. Colin Cowherd did this thing all last season. You know, he repeats like a bit from his show on every show. He'll take a bit that he really likes that he wants to like hammer the point. And that was one of the points is how the Browns were better without Odell Beckham Jr. on the field. And I totally disagree with that. You could be more productive in a certain situation and in a one season kind of scope, right? You could be more productive with this guy off the field. But let's not forget, Kevin Stefanski had just got there, and I think that he was trying to make the identity of that team what they need to be, but not what they should be, right? Like where they should be a running philosophy team, but Kevin Stefanski knows that if he's going to get over the top of teams like Kansas City and teams like Buffalo, that you're going to have to be able to be a team that can throw the ball down the field. And Baker Mayfield is the kind of quarterback that when you start throwing the ball down the field, he starts making mistakes. So to simplify that game plan, they said, well, let's go back to our identity and really go to the run and win as many games as we can. But then when it comes playoff time, you start to see the struggles with the Browns.
So now I got to ask you,
because
you said it doesn't depend on his impact. So if this trade becomes a bust, then what is it based on if it's not on his impact?
I mean, I think if Odell Beckham's healthy, he's going to be able to make plays. That's just for me, bottom line. You know?
No, but I'm asking you because you said his impact wouldn't matter in terms of you judging the game or judging the trade
on the Cleveland Browns. Like let's say Odell Beckham's out on the field for 16 games and the Cleveland Browns put up like 1,000 yards less in offense than they did the previous year. It's still not going to do anything to really change my opinion. I think when Odell, unless he's out on the field dropping the ball like Darius Slayton all day, you know, and Odell had his fair share of drops, but man, the dude is just a playmaker, you know. So for me, it's like I saw somebody in the chat saying bring Odell home. Man, if we could get him for I
mean, listen, bro. He was
a Darius Slayton. I'm taking Odell Beckham.
He was talking to Mara in that preseason. I'm surprised you never heard of that report. It wasn't even a report. It was just out there. You know what I'm saying? It was out there for a minute, two, swirling around, and that was the reason that picture kind of. I don't know if it necessarily went viral, but it was so popular was because everybody's like he's literally speaking to the dude that sent him away.
Yeah, which is crazy. Yeah, because everybody knows that was a top office kind of move for sure, you know. And I don't know how much Dave Gettleman had to do with it, but he was literally in the public saying, we didn't pay him to trade him, and then y'all traded him. You know, so there's something going wrong here. And my thing is like, just be honest with the fans. Don't tell us nothing. Just don't tell us nothing if you're going to trade him. Don't say, I'm not signing him to trade him, and then trade him. Like, bro, that's just like dishonest. You know what I'm saying? Like, keep it under wraps. You know, there's certain things that the fans should know about, obviously, when
don't
it comes
they
to
screen
football.
questions? Like, is that a fallacy? Do they not screen questions at press conferences to say, all right, you could ask this, you can't ask this, or does that not happen?
I'm not sure if they screen them, but you know, you've seen it all day with guys like Belichick, and you've seen it with Dave Gettleman, where he just completely avoids the question. He won't answer it. He'll talk circles around a whole bunch of other stuff, or he'll be like, we're not going to get into that right now. You know, stuff like that, and just kind of avoid the question. Whereas on this one, it's like he said we're not trading him, and then we traded him. And Dave Gettleman, it's been like that with him since he's been here. You look at some of the players that we've drafted, man, he got here and he talked about the hog mollies. The first thing we're going to do is repair this offensive line. We're kind of starting to get a little glimpse of that, but look how
But it took a long time.
Yeah, and a lot of it isn't through draft capital. I mean, Andrew Thomas, yeah, he's playing fantastic, but like you still got Nate Solder on the other side over there. Will Hernandez, he doesn't even seem like a guy that's going to be around too long. You know, a couple of guys off the streets this past week, and Price and Bredesen out there. It's very makeshift. Everything that Dave Gettleman has done is very makeshift. You know, even on the defensive side of the ball, James Bradbury and Blake Martinez being signed as free agents, and Logan Ryan. You didn't get any of that in the draft. What's up with Xavier McKinney? You know, like, is he that guy we thought he was going to be?
Play him more. I want them to play him more because I like what I see when he is like. For one thing, I don't like is at certain points he looks like he's afraid to tackle. But other than that, I do like what I see.
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that. And I think that the playing time is very difficult when you got a guy like Jabril Peppers out there that are trying to make work. You know, they want that to work. But, yeah, I mean, it goes back to this trade thing. Like, to lose Odell Beckham, if I just go rewind, let me just go rewind back to how my feelings were right when it happened. I was like, draft picks, okay, that's cool. We got another draft pick. That's cool, right? But it falls back on Dave Gettleman to actually make the right draft
Yeah, I was
picks
gonna say,
for this
like,
to
who
work.
do you pick with it? And once I like Dexter, I really do like
I like
Dexter,
the
but
of the
like,
three, I think Dexter is the one that's
he's the
probably
best
going to
one.
pan
It's
out.
not. I
Yeah,
don't think it's close. He's the best
yeah.
one. But then the question is like, all right, bro, like, you trade your offensive identity for Dexter Lawrence, you know?
So,
So
Bark Nasty, I think he's talking about in reference to Xavier McKinney, which I did see Xavier McKinney out on the field a lot in this game. He's saying he's playing 90% of the snaps. I don't know how accurate that is, but I've seen him on
he's
the
out. I'll
field
say
doing a
this:
little
he's
bit.
out there more than he is with Jabril Peppers, but he's still splitting with Peppers. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah, I definitely feel you on that. I think that it's too crowded in the safety position
And
with the New York
like we were
Giants.
saying earlier with Peppers, even though like honestly his only good year with us was last year, and it was a really good year to me. But seeing what's happening right now, I'm just like I could see them being completely comfortable with just playing him all the time, replacing him. And I just looked up the snaps. Bark Nasty's right. Week 1 he played 95% of the snaps. Week 2 he played only 50 though. So like they kind of
Week
cut it down.
250. So okay, so it's
Yeah.
somewhere in between that if we average that out a little bit. And I see some good ones in the chat, man. Afghan says exactly. I understand Galladay's in a deep burner, but if there's anyone that needs to be in those situations, it's our $18 million wide receiver, hell, or our first round pick in Kadarius Toney. Even, yeah, I totally agree with that too, man. We're not finding ways to win these games, and it's interesting. And I don't know if a lot of it is on Daniel. You know, we did get the blow up. We didn't talk about that too much with the blow up on the sidelines between Kenny Galladay and what appeared to be maybe Daniel Jones, maybe Jason Garrett. I thought it was funny. The homies like in between them cleaning the helmet.
Yeah, when I first looked at the video, I was like, "Is he yelling at the helmet guy?"
That's what I thought. I'm like, is he screaming
Yo,
at him and he's just getting ignored? Like I couldn't
I'm like,
tell.
"Yo, this helmet guy's not getting paid enough, man."
Yeah, that's real. Shout out Kalen Dragon one time in the chat too. Everything hurts today. Yeah, and we got 10 days of this, man. This is
That's the only
on
positive
Sunday.
part. The only positive part is that we have a longer time.
Yeah, that's positive for the coaches and the players, but for the fans, wow, we're just in misery for another 10 days. It's going to be tough for us. I already know, man. I'm going to try to do a lot of streams, maybe bring out some extra content for this week just to keep things popping because I know when I used to just be in chats all day, I used to love it when the Giants content creators would go live, like during the week of a loss, because you get to talk about it. And I see this one here from Bark Nasty who says it was 100% Garrett. I'm not too sure exactly what he's talking about, if he's talking about the game plan or not.
He was talking about the sideline thing. The reason he's saying that is because you look at the video more and more and you see Daniel kind of enter the frame as Kenny is going off. So he wasn't there when Kenny started to go off.
I did see that. Now,
right?
Is Jason Garrett sitting down behind the guy cleaning
Jason
the helmet?
Garrett is right next to Daniel when he sits down.
Right.
He's
That's
like
what I
right
thought. I couldn't
on the
get a
edge.
good look of him there, but I thought
So,
that was
yeah.
Jason Garrett there, yeah. So that is what it looks like. I mean, it looks like Kenny Galladay's going off on Jason Garrett, which, man, I love to see. This is why I was a big fan of Odell Beckham, because I just love passionate football players. I loved Ocho Cinco out there all those years with Cincinnati, man. I thought that passion drives your players to want to win. And then even the showmanship, it makes you want to get in the end zone more. You got to think about it like this. The person who was like the perfect balance of like humility and showmanship was Victor Cruz, because every time he got in the end zone, he did that salsa, right? And every time, Giants fans, I'd be in my living room doing salsa dances. My girl's Puerto Rican and all. Like, I would just be in that joint just salsa dancing and just screaming Cruz, bro. And we looked forward to that. And I'm sure that the players, coaches, organization, fans, everybody was behind that. So I did catch that, like,
one thing I will say,
game.
Which is why I get why Galladay is getting on Garrett. Like I said it last week, I'm like, it may be on Jones, it may be on Garrett getting involved. If that outburst was directed to Garrett, then I think we got our answer as to why he isn't involved in that much. Maybe he believes, or maybe Garrett actually isn't involving him that much, especially in the red zone. Like, this dude is a great red zone threat, and I don't think we've targeted him a single time in the red zone, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, and that would be the time to target him, especially against Washington. I talked about the safeties being over the top a lot on Kenny Galladay throughout the game, but when we got down to the red zone, he saw a lot of one-on-one coverage where you could have just gave him the fade route and give him those routes that I'm trying to see him catch, man. I think Daniel Jones, like, maybe the first game was a little bit shaky, but what I saw in this game, Daniel Jones was accurate for the most part. He only missed a couple of throws. So, like, let's see. He's supposed to be a 50-50 pass catcher. Let's see if he can do that.
That's
we
what I'm saying. Just toss it up. And I'll be honest with you, they need to get it going week 3. They do. We've said it all stream long. They just got to get it going week 3. There's no excuses.
Yeah. I mean, that's facts. And shout out to my homie The Beard one time in the building. He says, didn't Joe Judge mention something along the lines of Galladay and Jones hugged it out in the locker room? And that is true. And Daniel Jones just pretty much downplayed it all in the press conference that he had. And he made it clear that the energy that Kenny Galladay was presenting there was not towards him. He said it was just an overall frustration. Saw a couple people on Twitter trying to say he was trying to maybe cover it up and he sounded a little nervous, but I like to pride myself on like a bit of judgment of character, and I could see through Daniel in that one. He seemed to be being honest on that one.
And I'll say this, a lot of obviously non-Giants people on Twitter are definitely trying to make it seem as if Kenny wants to stay in Detroit now.
Oh, man, no, I don't think that's the case, man. I think they're good. I think they'll be fine. And as far as the red zone opportunities, they didn't have too many where Daniel could throw it. And on one of them, we did score. You know, Daniel Jones did have a draw play in the red zone early on. So, I mean, as long as you're putting up points on the board, I don't care. You know, if you're running it and you're scoring, I'm not going to be like, oh, we need to be throwing the fades, Kenny Galladay. Yesterday, we put up all the points on the board that we need to put up on the board to win that game. Darius Slayton makes that catch, and we out of here, you know, but he doesn't make the catch. And instead, you're looking at the Giants, staring at 0-2, which is very unfortunate for us, man. I know it's going to be a tough week. Before we get out of here, though, Hub, what you got coming up this week? I know you said you got a stream going on tonight, right?
Yeah, it's going to be 8:30, so basically 2 hours from now, another pain stream. I had one Monday. Actually, no, Sunday night. Now, today's Friday night. Two in 1 week. Sad, but it's basically just for anybody to come on. It's for them, the subs, to come on and just give their thoughts. They want to voice it. I know a couple people already messaged me on Twitter, commented on my video today saying that it's something they really want to do and need to do. I'm like, all right, bro, you got it. In terms of that, Sunday is going to be off, right? Because the Giants are not playing. Maybe I'll cover general NFL things. I don't count on it, though. But next week, I'm just going to start focusing on the Falcons. That's all it's going to be. It's going to be focusing on the Falcons. Probably try and get another skit out. I haven't put one out since week 1. And, well, I have a lot of material to work with, considering we have 2 losses built up. But it's just going to be focusing on the Falcons from here on out, and tonight, the pain stream. So
that's what's up, man. I'm going to definitely tune in to your stream tonight. I got to do some catching up. I definitely want to see your rants because I want to see how you were like in the heat of the moment, how you felt about that. And, you know, those are usually some pretty funny videos when you look back at them on hindsight. Every time I blow up like that, I look at it in 2 weeks and I'm like, why the hell was I doing it?
I look more just depressed in those, man.
Yeah. Yo, man, I saw some Giants fans on my joint, on my Twitter feed, talking about they were crying and stuff like that, man. There's no crying in baseball, man. There's no crying in football, man. Let's just buck up, man. Let's get these W's, man. You know what I'm saying? I know it's tough when you see your team lose. It's just going to
sting for a while.
It's going to sting for a little while, man. And you know, I'd say be patient with this team. Give them till about week 8, week 9. You'll know where we stand in a couple of weeks here. You'll know. You know, I think after the bye, you really gonna know where this team stands. Shout out to the 69 people in here one time in the chat. Nice. Appreciate y'all pulling up to this episode with Awthentik and with my homie, the Hub, called Giant Overreaction. We're going to be doing the week 3 version of this. I'm supposed to be bringing on Entertainer for one of these. I got to holler at Bad Dog, too, because Bad Dog would be a really good one to bring on this show, too.
He would have been nice for one of these first 2 weeks, man.
I know. Bad Dog's going through it. And I saw a piece of his video this morning, and I know he was super heated. He woke up at 7 in the morning, and I saw some tweets as well on his timeline. And I know when Bad Dog's tweeting, he's definitely feeling some kind of way. So anybody else too in the chat as well too, man, if you ever want to pull up on a Giant Overreaction, just shoot me a DM on my Twitter. My Twitter DMs are wide open. You can hit me up. And I definitely want to bring in some people that are, you know, not used to being on the camera, like content creators and all that. People who are just fans of the team, and get y'all perspective as well. This was a fire show, man. Shout out to the Hub one time for pulling up, man. Let's get some biceps in the Hub. I mean, some biceps in the Hub.
Hey,
some
biceps
in the
hold
chat
up.
For
that's the
Hub.
second moment this stream that there had to be a pause put out there, man. Hold up.
Some biceps in the Hub. Nah, that ain't no pause. The first one was a super pause. What was it? Something about the sacks?
Yeah, something about a lot of that, bro. I ain't about to say it. But shout out to Awthentik for having me on, man. Love coming on. I'm looking forward to the season, despite everything, because at the end of the day, I'm a fan. Everybody in the chat, it's nice to see y'all as well, man. This was good.
Definitely, man. You have a good one, man. And make sure y'all tune into the Hub one time tonight. He's going to be doing a live show where fans can call in and whatnot. That should be a really dope vibe. This has been the second episode of Giant Overreaction, man. Yo, hit me up on Twitter, man. Let me know what y'all think about this, man. Did we take the over on sums that we should have took the under? Let me know how y'all feeling about that, man. But as always, man, I appreciate y'all pulling up. I see the biceps in the chat one time. Shout out to Kalen, Lucas. Shout out to Diggy in the building. Stephen, Lily. I see Kevin in the building. Who else in the building out here? The Hub's even in the chat. He said 69. Nice. That's funny. Yeah, man. So shout out to y'all, man. Giants Nation. Y'all know how we do one time. We always in the building. Support this team, man. You know, I'm going to be a Giants fan till this casket dips. I don't care what goes down. So it is what it is, man. I go by the name of Awthentik. Check me out on Twitter at AWTHIK. ENTIK, man. This has been Giant Overreaction with your boy. I'll catch y'all on Tuesday with the homie, the Beard, one time. We'll be back at it for the recaps of the Sunday's game. Y'all enjoy y'all Sunday football, and also don't forget to pull up on a Sunday morning for the parlay at 11 a.m. That's going to be another good show. We're going to be doing some fantasy vibes. I'll catch y'all then, man. Y'all have a good one. I'll see y'all on Twitter, yo. Peace.